Right, on to this week's Street Talk then. I'm going to kind of say right from the start, I wasn't a huge fan of Coronation Street this week. There wasn't that much that got my juices flowing. It kind of was very much of a so-so kind of week. Well, what did you think? I think you maybe gave a couple of bang-ins.
I kind of enjoyed it, but it was like picking a scab or like scratching an itch where there was some really questionable behaviour going on, which yes. I kind of like. I think they should do that more. But when they do it, obviously everyone gets, up in arms and complains. But, there are so many idiots and bad actors not bad actors as in bad acting, but like bad actors as in being naughty on the show at the moment.
There's definitely some unlikable characters.
And even likeable characters doing really awful things.
I think so.
It's creating a lot of conflict, which is good for drama.
Yeah, I was talking to you the other day and saying that I'm not convinced at the moment this year there's any stories that are like, whoa, that's a brilliant story. I can't wait to see what happens next, and that's going to get all the awards. That's the big story for the year.
What's the A story?
I don't know.
Is it prison boring?
I don't think so. What, to this week or just in general?
No, the whole year.
I don't...
They normally have like one or two big stories a year, don't they? And you know that's what they...
It's not clear yet what it is. I'm guessing it's going to be what's going on with Debbie, because the Websters have been fairly prominent this year. But if you look back to, say, last year, and last year wasn't exactly a vintage year for Corrie, I think we'll all agree. But we had the Paul MND storyline. We had the Institute story, which I know not everybody liked, but I loved the Institute story. There was another biggish one as well. I can't remember what it was, but it felt like by this time in the year, the year had got going more. And obviously there was the stuff with Joel, and this time last year was the what's happened to Lauren
and Roy in prison.
Yeah, that hadn't happened quite yet 12 months ago, but it felt like there was bigger ones, and I don't want to kind of downplay what's been going on with Dee-Dee and...
Well, no, that's not the case. That's not what we're saying. It's just that they've all been given equal screen time so far, really, and any of one of these stories could be in a whole year's story, but we just don't know which one it is.
Yeah, but I'm saying that none of them so far have hooked me in the same way as some of those other bigger stories had done last year, or the year before. We were nicely into the Stephen Reed unravelling story by this point, and there's just nothing quite that grabs me yet. So I'm waiting to see what happens. But this week was kind of fine, and I will say that Friday's episode, interested me more. There were developments that I wasn't expecting to happen. All the stuff with Sean getting beaten up. I didn't realise that today was the day when the Michaelis were going to be unveiled as the parents of Brody, which had been widely theorised online. And the bits that were going on there... Yeah, I was a bit more interested in them, I suppose. And even the Dee-Dee story, which I'd been a bit about, I was more hooked in. So it was fine. But yeah, I think it's all the unsavoury characters that are that seem to be dominating at the moment, but they're not like villainous in a charming Pat Phelan-esque way, Mick is a horrible thing. Carl... nothing at all likeable about him. Theo, I kind of want to like, but what he's getting up to is pretty despicable. Kit, I'm still not a huge fan of him, and they seem to be, being pushed to the forefront at the moment, and yeah, they're not quite doing it for me. But there's still other things that I am enjoying, which I'm sure we will unpick as we go through today's episode. But first, Gemma, we do have some clickbait headlines for you. I'd like to say a big thank you to our listener, Jonathan, who's been sending us some this week.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You heard my request last week.
That's really cool
for sending us some clickbaity headlines so that I didn't have to wade through a sea of spoilers to try and find them myself. And he's got us 3 here. One of them that he sent us, I will say, had a spoiler in. It was all about a spoiler. Luckily, it was a spoiler I knew about, but they don't need any more of those. Thank you, Jonathan. But right.
Oh, you're hard to please.
Well, I'm not going to be able to say them on the podcast anyway, are we? Right, first one, Gemma, is from Belfast Live. ITV Coronation Street fans work out Carl Webster's secret son, and he's already in Weatherfield. So,
no, I don't know.
who is Carl Webster's secret son who is already in Weatherfield, according to probably some fans on Facebook or Twitter?
Right. So the age range we're looking at like a teenager or younger.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not
Who
many.
would be the juiciest child to actually, even though it makes no sense whatsoever, you don't need to think about that, be Carl's son?
Jack.
Yes, Jack Webster, apparently, according to this article, is not Kevin's son, not Tyrone's son, but actually Carl's son. And it just came about from some people on the internet saying, "Ooh, I wonder if," and I know it wouldn't make sense, but... And it turned into an article, which is the best type of clickbait there can be.
Well, they need to make clickbaits out of our podcast because I say so much crazy stuff every week.
I know they're totally good, they could. Come on, Michael Adams, get it there on the Metro. MAN, Manchester Evening News. Coronation Street star Sally Carmen Datine makes admission over co-star husband. So, what's that Joe Datine been getting up to? What's she admitting about him?
Does she admit she doesn't watch Coronation Street with him?
No.
They don't watch Coronation Street together?
No.
He doesn't like podcasts?
No.
He thinks he hates Tim?
No.
He has actually got shoulder length hair in real life?
Just imagine that, he's wearing a bald cap. No.
No? Is it that she calls him Johnny?
No.
What else is it?
Well, I can tell you the answer if you want.
Give me a clue.
It's about filming with him.
She doesn't like filming with him.
Pretty much, yeah. It was.
Because he puts her off.
Yeah, she said that she wouldn't mind if she never shared a screen with him again. She prefers...
Because she hates Tim. He's a terrible character.
No, she just doesn't like... She gets on, perfectly with this. They are married after all, but
she gets on all right with him, probably.
Probably does. You don't have to be married, do you, my darling?
No, it's optional.
Yeah, but no, that's all that one is. Finally, from the Mirror, Corrie star fumes. Give it a rest as they lash out at dramatic Abby storyline.
Right, so this is...
Okay.
Right, okay, so... Is this...
You might need a few more clues for this one.
Between her and Carl?
Yes, this is somebody saying give it a rest about the spark between Abigail and Carl Webster, indeed.
Carlitos.
Who's... You're never going to guess this one, but I'll give you a few.
Is it an ex-star?
This is an ex-Corrie star saying give it a rest to this story.
Some people are quite outspoken, and I would guess those people, but
it's not Charlie Lawson. No.
It's not Vicky Entwistle.
No.
Is it? Give me a clue.
They're from Liverpool.
Is it? It's not Claire Sweetney. She's not an ex.
No.
It's not.
They were on the wall of ex-Coronation Street stars in the Liverpool Museum. No.
Oh gosh, who was on the wall?
Yeah. Who indeed?
Oh, is it Craig Charles?
No, Craig Charles has not had nothing to say about the Abby and Carl relationship.
I think Craig Charles might have actually forgotten that Coronation Street exists and he was ever in it.
Do you reckon? Has he moved on?
For as much as he probably.
Do you want me to tell you?
Give me another clue.
It's a man, and he was only in it for about less than 50 episodes, I'm going to say.
No. I've got no idea.
It's Louis Emmerich.
I was trying to remember that guy's name.
I know, that's what I was just picked up my phone there to check. He played Mike Thornbury. He was a boyfriend of Liz about 10 years or so ago.
Oh, I love that he cares enough about it.
That is nice. But obviously he's not going to be asking for a spot back on Coronation Street, a return for Mike.
I do think it's nice that people still care enough to complain. I know that Coronation Street doesn't probably like it, but it shows that people... It matters what happens on Corrie.
There we go. Right, okay, so let's get going with this week's Coronation Street and what went on and what happened. I agree as well. I agree with Louis Emmerich on this. I say give it a rest. I don't want them going down that route.
Lou should have written in his feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Dylan and the villain. I've changed it from Dylan the villain to Dylan and the villain because Dylan's, he's been...
Oh, he's confused.
He might have brought a knife, but there's certainly a lot more villains going on. Can I just say something? I'm not feeling charitable today at all to anybody. Oh, great! So we're going to have some.
I'm feeling really annoyed
first-class Gemma rants about what's going on. I'm getting so mad about it. What is it about me mentioning this story that's made you make that confession?
I beat them all up. Why stop at Sean? Beat everybody up.
Okay, so the Todd gives the nod to the gods with the bod storyline. I've renamed this week. It's now the silver-tongued fox or the silver-tongued devil. I can't remember because his name is Theo Silverton, and he is a bit of a silver-tongued fox, isn't he? Because he's charmed Todd into bed, and apparently Sarah Louise into just letting her use letting them use the flat as a bunk up spot.
In case anybody is wondering, like we were, I'm not sure that it's really explicitly been said, but David and everyone else seem to be staying with Audrey in Grasmere Drive.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it's been said or not. I know that they talked about it because Sarah was getting fed up with Lily leaving us stuff around or something. I certainly hope that...
Yeah, Lily leaving her stuff around. Todd and Theo.
Yeah. What's this on the bedside? Oh, no. You haven't finished tidying up yet, boys.
Well, when she came in and Todd was doing the laundry... And he was like, I just thought I'd clean up all your spare bedding because we used it. I was like, do you know, I'd rather not say and just do it more discreetly than this because I'm not fussed on knowing that you need to clean the sheets.
Was Sarah Louise like a madam at a brothel in a previous life or something? She's just like, yeah, come in.
It's nice. It is nice and polite.
Come all.
It is really nice and polite to like when you're a guest and you have used the bedding or towels to like just chuck them in the washing machine. And like when we go to Airbnbs, even if they don't say, I normally will ask them, do we want me to and put it in washing machine. But I just the image it conjures is just like you're making me think and go places.
Sarah Lou is obviously very progressive and understanding.
No, it's not about being progressive.
No, you're right. No, it's not about the progressiveness.
I literally do not care who it is you're in bed with. I just don't want to think about it, and I don't want to see you washing your liquids off of my sheets.
Let's just say, would any of us here, and maybe I'm just being prudish here about this, would any of us let our friends use
I think people do.
House
I think people don't mind
as a sneaky bunk up spot. It's grim.
Okay, but I think we're really prudish, and I totally acknowledge. I totally hold my hand up. Sorry if that's a moral failing of mine.
I don't want to think of my friends at it.
Look,
in the spare bedroom while I'm out at work.
Some people have a different relationship, and that's fine. It's just not us. I'm not going to judge anybody.
I'm judging Sarah Louise harsh.
It just was like really confronting to be like, I am in my pants washing the stuff off of your sheets.
Well, it was only today that we decided to have a look up about the David situation, wasn't it? Because I kind of assumed that he was still there, but no, a couple of months ago, or a month or so ago maybe it was. He was like, can I move to Grasmere Drive with you, Audrey? Yes, okay, that's fine.
She did make a point of saying my spare bedroom several times, and I was like, why has she got a spare bedroom when she's got the whole Platt family living with her?
No.
But just to say, if I was Sarah, I'd be a bit annoyed with how much water they're wasting, because at this point it's not a spare bedroom, is it? It's a shagging spot for
den.
you two.
Yeah, a shag shack.
So can you just do it weekly or something? I don't know what you're doing in there that you need to wash it every time.
I'm worried about Harry walking in on them, to be honest.
I don't know.
It's not, it could happen, couldn't it? It could happen.
Well, it's the Easter holidays.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'd be like, Harry was sick from wherever he goes to, his holiday club, and then somebody, Audrey says, I'm going to collect you, I'll take you back home, and just go... Doesn't bear thinking about. They're going to get caught out at some point, aren't they?
Easter's a poignant time.
Yeah. So
it's not like Christmas where you can shag anyone you want.
The other thing about this Sarah Louise thing, which I've seen other people point out and I firmly agree with, is that she's been in Danielle's position before, hasn't she? She's been the woman who's been cheated on by Todd. When he was bunking up with Carl at the hospital, about 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, she had to find out that this had happened. So does she so... And is she like, well, it's happened to me, I'm going to have it happen to you? Honestly.
She didn't know that he was gay.
No, she's been in the
exact found out because he cheated on her with a guy at work.
The only difference is that she didn't have a dead mum to contend with at that point.
It does really bother me that Danielle is being treated like some kind of inconvenient lump.
I know, she is, isn't she?
She's done absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever.
It feels like that as viewers we're being led to sympathise more with Todd and Theo's plight than hers. And those poor kids that showed up at the Undertakers on Monday.
There's no time constraint reason why you can't wait
No.
To decide, Theo's got to decide what he wants to do with his life. He can't carry on like this.
No.
It's just really unfair for anybody to cheat on anybody. I don't care whether you're gay or straight. It's got nothing to do with it. But like,
finish
when
with
somebody's
the one you're
married,
in first.
and they're all like, "Oh, but she's sad at the moment." Yeah. So, and you're cheating on her. That doesn't make you the morally correct one.
No,
because you're not bothering her with this inconvenient truth.
I kind of get that Todd doesn't really care. I think that's kind of in his personality to think more of himself and his own lust. Damn whoever it gets in the way.
New Todd doesn't really feel like that anymore.
No, I know. I don't think new Todd does.
But old Todd definitely would have been like, "What? Say what?
Yeah,
she should know. Who cares what she thinks?"
But I am still enjoying watching the story, I have to say. So I'm really in a bit of a quandary about that. And I do think, and I still stick with the idea with what I said the other week, that I think that Todd and Theo make quite a nice pair. I wish that they could have just contained themselves for a little bit for him to graciously drop Danielle and his... I
don't see what they see in each other at all. Well, I don't feel that there's any...
Couldn't you tell when they were walking around in their undercrackers in today's episode?
There's no spark, and they don't have a similar look. You know what I mean? Like, quite often you'll see people will have a similar look to their partner.
Do you think?
They don't look the same, but they've got the same kind of, like, genre of face.
Face? I don't know what you mean. But...
Well... Lots of times, people look similar to one another when they're a couple. They just do.
Okay. Well, maybe they're thinking that there's an opposites attracting going on.
I'm not talking about how attractive they are, because it's not to do with that necessarily. But the facial structure and everything of them is so completely different. I do have this theory that people get together with somebody who looks similar to them because it makes your genes more compatible.
Okay. Well, I don't think they're going to be passing on
any
of their
genes. It's not to do. I don't know whether it's to do with. I know they're not, but I don't know whether man and woman and stuff. But if you look at like couples, I bet you most people, if you mix up a bunch of couples in a room who've been together for like decades, and you said who's married to who, I bet you a lot of people could guess.
Well, there's a little a scientific experiment to throw out to our listeners to see if we can prove Gemma right on this one. But I don't mind them at all as a couple. I just find the whole situation surrounding them a bit unfortunate, that he has a wife and children. Coming up next, we've got the dementia story, which didn't get a demention in today's episode, but we've got a bit of action on Monday and Wednesday there. And then we've got the Dee-Dee storyline. Can I say both of my storyline titles for this one, even though you picked one?
Well, I said you've got to save the other one.
Ah, okay.
We'll do what you want. I'm not...
No, okay. I came up with two quite good storyline titles. Well, two so-so storyline titles for this one, and you said leave the other one for another time. So we're if you're kind of on Dee-Dee's side and you're fighting for her to get justice, and you're admiring the fact that she is not letting go of this, you might say that she is being quite tenacious. So I'm calling this storyline Tenacious Dee-Dee.
Yeah, I like that.
There we go. And you have to wait and see what I don't know where there's. We got a bit of stuff going on in the pub. We got a little bit of stuff going on at number 9, but not a whole lot. We'll round off the episode with those. I wonder whether... What would you like to do? Would you like to do the Dylan and all that stuff, or would you like to do...
You pick, I don't.
Okay, I'll do the Dylan storyline. I don't mind. So you got Brody, and I can't remember whether they were in it last week at all, but it feels like that he's been giving Dylan a bit of a rest recently, but it all ramps up again on Monday. But he's still saying, oh, you got me this phone, thanks very much, I trust you, I've been having trust issues, but I trust you and your family, you'd do anything for me, wouldn't you? Yeah. And so Dylan unwittingly, I can't remember, Brody sends him off to go and get one of the other lads or something, I can't remember, and as soon as Dylan's out the room, he starts rooting around for something. I don't know.
Well, he finds a notebook with phone numbers, that's what he's looking for.
Betsy's and Sean's numbers. I mean, I don't know whether he had anything particular in mind to find, or whether he was just looking for anything.
He wanted to get hold of Sean to blackmail him.
Yes, that's true. So he phones up Sean and says, right, I got a little task for you today, Sean. It's like Taskmaster, isn't it? And Sean's like, no, I've already done too much for you. I'm not doing any more. We're done with you. Put the phone down him. That's not how it works, is it, Sean? If you give in to blackmail, then they're probably going to do it again, which is why I probably shouldn't have done it in the first place, but... Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Sean's visiting Dylan later, and he's saying, and Dylan's still saying that he's not being bullied, he's fine, he's keeping his heads down, things are okay with Brody, and Sean's like, really, you need to give him a really wide berth, son. That's all I'm saying. So Brody later on gives Sean a ring, and his challenge to him is this: he wants £500 in cash tomorrow. And if he doesn't, he's going to trip Dylan down the stairs and break his legs.
I think this would have been a really great way of bringing back Challenge Annika.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Just phone her up and go, I've got your children. And if you want to see him again, you've got to give me £500.
Otherwise, I'm going to break the legs.
Break their legs.
Yeah.
I've got this Romanian orphanage and I'm going to set fire to it unless you manage to raise £1,000.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking about it hard enough, but I do find it very unlikely and a bit kind of wearing that Brody is being a tough guy here and Sean's dancing to his tune. Could Sean really just say, no, I'm going to report you?
Well, he did in the end.
He did in the end, and nothing really came of it.
Yes, he did. He got beaten up.
He got beaten up in the end, didn't he? But I just, on the scale of tough teenagers on the street, yes, I'll put Brody above Jack Webster, and I'd probably rather, I'd rather not meet him in a dark alley compared to Jack, who I think I could maybe take. But Brody himself just doesn't feel all that threatening to me, especially for Sean, a 45-year-old man or however old he is.
I do think...
It feels like he's got other options.
It does really feel frustrating that a lot of the time when people get blackmailed, in Corrie, the answer is like, no, I'm not doing it. And then it just doesn't feel that threatening, or like you want a blackmail story that you're like, gosh, yeah, of course you would have to go along with that because there's no other option. All of these, every single time there's something on Corrie, it's always like, we'll phone the police. And they go, no, but I can't because, and then they do in the end.
Dylan likes his legs unbroken.
Well, look at Jack.
Yeah, he's living a full and healthy life with only one leg.
You only had one leg, would you?
No, exactly. I
don't think he does anymore.
I think part of the problem is, like you were kind of alluding to there, that this kind of story has been done before.
Every week. Almost every week someone's getting blackmailed for something, I swear to goodness.
Well, it's not even that. It's the fact that this prison story just feels so cliche. And, Dylan got sent to prison. It's endemic of the problem that Corrie just keeps... They keep throwing their teenagers in prison, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember back in the day when teenagers were able to get through to adulthood without being arrested or spend some time behind bars? But no, now they've got the set for the STC. Everybody's got to spend a bit of time there. And maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but we've had Max behind bars there. We've had Lauren there. There's been an awful lot of teenagers behind bars. And then once they're there... It feels like that they've only got one story, which is they get bullied. Those teenagers getting bullied. Grow a pair. Yeah. I don't want to victim blame or anything here, but it feels like they're very pick-onable, the teenagers on Coronation Street at the moment, aren't they?
We've been having bullying storylines for about 3 years with the same groups of characters now.
Yeah.
Bullying is awful. Happens.
But bullying happens, and it's dreadful that it happens. But
it's time to move on and find a new storyline
that can happen in prison.
And I'd forgive you if you thought that, just like Tony Blair said, I want 50% of everyone to get a degree, kids to get a degree. That Keir Starmer had said, I want 50% of all children to go to prison. And this was Coronation Street enacting that social...
Maybe this is a bit like the Tories' plan to have your national service in there, and they're trying to sneak it in by getting the Corrie-teens to all go in prison. Yeah, and the other, it also is tied up with the idea that if you're, and this is kids and adults, there's going to be some guy in there kind of calling the shots who just so happens to be able to access a network of goons and henchmen outside. One day it's Harvey, now it's Brody. They've all got phones coming out of every orifice. I don't believe. Maybe it does happen. Maybe I'm being naive to it. But just because it happens a lot, it doesn't mean that every time anybody goes to prison in Coronation Street, we have to go through the same stories. If you can't think of any original stories to do in prison, don't send them to prison, or just send them there and then say, let's come back to them in 6 months when they're out. We don't need a story. Max. We don't need a story of Dylan behind bars if this is all it's going to lead to.
Do you know what I want to see? I want to see somebody go in prison and be like, right, I'm going to be the top dog here. I'm going to beat everyone else up.
Yeah, just imagine
just refreshing, just a refreshing change of pace.
Yeah. They're all just wet blankets that go in there, aren't they?
It does feel a bit like it. Like they did such a good job with Liam, like in the bullying and like how terrible it was, and you really saw the effect of the whole family. And now we've just had bullying of like various different people bullying. Dylan's been bullied. He was a bully. Now he's being bullied again.
Yeah.
I know it happens, and it happens all the time. I don't want to
downplay the importance of it.
But there are so many other things that happen all the time that we don't have to watch on Coronation Street because they're either boring or they've been done a million times before, or it's not suitable for the show. Like, I don't need to see every time someone goes to the toilet. I just assume it happens.
Yeah, but I'd like to see it just once on Coronation Street.
I'm sure somebody's done a wee stick.
Like I said, it did by Friday's episode get a little bit more interesting for me, but all of this intimidating Brody is just not doing it for me. Thing
is that a lot of these things, you know, to get to the interesting Friday episode, you had to set up.
Yeah, I know, and I adore Sean, and I know that I'm, you know, in a minority of people who absolutely love Sean.
There's quite a lot of people that would mug him in an alleyway if they had a chance.
Yeah, I think he's a great character. I've got an awful lot of time for him, so maybe it makes a bit of a difference that it's him. But I much preferred Sean earlier this year and last year when he's being a dad at home and getting a bit angry and protective. Anthony Cotton was great in those scenes, and now he's just again being a bit of a victim himself.
Yeah, he's crying and bloodied and sad and
yeah. Anyway, that's just my little my little divergence from what we're actually talking about, which was Monday's episode. So he's got to get himself £500 in cash, and he sends Sean a picture of Dylan in his cell to say, "Look, I can break his legs. I can sneak up on him at any time. So get me that cash or else."
If I was Sean, I'd phone Dylan up and go, "Sorry, lad, you're gonna have to start working out more."
Yeah, maybe that's the solution.
Take some karate classes or something.
Yeah. I maybe they send in a body double for him, because I know that Liam McShane's got a body double, hasn't he? Got his twin brother. Get him to take the punches.
That would be too complicated for Coronation Street.
Possibly.
I think it would open up a world of confusion.
So Sean's task on Monday is to try and find the Weatherfield money tree, just to find a spare branch and give it a quick tweak, but he finds it a little bit difficult on Wednesday.
I appreciated that he spoke to a lot of other characters who were also completely broke. Because normally people are like, "Oh no, I need £10,000." I'm like, "Oh, there it is. I forgot I put it there." Yeah. Whereas this was like genuinely difficult for him, and he had to steal it. And he asked, like on Wednesday, he says, "Oh, Glenda," as a joke, like, "Oh, can you give me £500?" And she's like, "Ha ha ha, no."
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he tries to get an advance on his wages at the pub, doesn't he? And
like most characters on the street would have £500, but that's not normal for working class people. Especially people that have to have, you know, more than one job. Of course Sean doesn't have £500. Neither does Izzy, neither does Glenda. But it feels like whenever there's some money problem, I was just literally saying this the other week, wasn't I? It's always vast amounts of money that they need, which is, you know, you might as well say £10 million to
$1 million.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? At least this is a normal, reasonable amount of money that you wouldn't be able to lay your hands on if you were a properly working class person.
Yeah, totally.
You know, minimum wage.
What's Brody gonna do with £500? And
buy vapes. Off hope.
If Sean, I was a bit confused about what Sean's plan to get the money to him was, because he said on Wednesday when he finally gets hold of it that he's going to take it to the precinct or something.
He's giving it to a minion.
Has he got like a Dropbox there? It's like an Amazon Dropbox.
I'm surprised he could not just PayPal it to me.
Yeah, through his
Brody
mobile.
the Scroat.
Through his burner phone.
Brody the Scroat at yahoo.com. What do the kids have now? Do they even have email addresses?
They don't have Yahoo, I'll tell you that. Can you TikTok money over to someone? I don't know.
TikTok it to me. Why don't you send PX it to me?
Sean can't get money off of Glenda. He can't get it off of Jenny. So he phones up Brody and says, like, I can't get the money for you today. But Brody's like, no, you are. Sorry, I'm not taking no for an answer. This is only the first quarter of the episode. You've got plenty of time. I promise you that. Off you go, love. So he goes to the factory, and Izzy can see something's up with Sean. And I am quite enjoying that Izzy's getting a bit of a face shown in this story. She's not had a whole lot to do the past few years, bless her, has she? So, but the factory lot do seem very much diluted compared to previous factory lots, aren't they? There's not a proper core team of Bolshie factory women there anymore.
I mean, you know, we really were robbed of the scene where everybody in the factory finds out that Carla is dating Lisa, and all of the like classic choreo of the past. Everyone would have been heckling. They'd be going, "Ooh, Miss Connor."
If you imagine Janice and Karen and
but even the stuff, the people they have now, like Sally and Fizz and Sean and who else, Betsy. That would have been a really great scene because you would have had Sally going, well, I think it's great. Well done, Mrs. Connor. I think that anyone could be a lesbian. Just look at my Sophie. And then you'd have Sean going, well, I mean, what, do you want a medal? And then, I don't know, Fizz like laughing and saying, I would never have guessed in a million years considering what a man he is.
I just don't feel like we've got the same level of camaraderie around the factory lot.
And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't, obviously I wouldn't expect it to be negative because why would it be in the first place? But also because Coronation Street is being very positive about Carla's sexuality, but just having people acknowledge that it's something to talk about. They talk about anything in that factory, but you never see them.
No. Anyway, Sean manages to locate 500. Now, does he get 500? He gets a fair chunk of it later by having a route around Julie's fundraising pot. Because when Eileen and George come to the Underworld later on to pick it up, they find the pot is emptied, apart from a $5 in there.
That Izzy really conspicuously put in, so everyone could see that Izzy. Look, I put a note in it. Look at me, Izzy. I put a note in.
I can't imagine that factory would have raised that much for Julie.
No, I can't imagine anyone would raise that much money for Julie.
Considering there's probably a pot in the pub, isn't there? And most of the people working at the factory
Who's Julie? Is what I would say. Who's Julie?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, you got Sean and you got Fizz and you got a few others there, but I can't imagine. And it's not like they're going to have passing trade, are you? You know, Mr. Hamlin wheels in one day and he's like, oh, I'll put in £5 for her. It was an odd place to have it, but it was helpful to the storyline anyway. Maybe Dirk has maybe he's a massive Julie fan and also is loaded. Who knows? But anyway, there was enough for Sean to steal it. And act surprised when George comes along and is like, oh my gosh, there's nothing in there. So they
find this out as Sean is standing there going, oh, I wonder who did that.
Yes. Izzy suspects the delivery driver from this morning, and Sean's like, yeah, that's probably definitely is going to be him, isn't it? But George immediately twigs that he reckons it's Sean, and he's like, Eileen, I reckon, I think Sean's
Wasn't he asking us for money earlier?
Yeah, Sean, he knows that Sean is broke and in need of cash. So Sean texts Brody to say he's going to the precinct to drop off the money there, and Eileen and George bump into Sean, and on the way back from the precinct and confront him about the money, and he's like, I took it, but I'm too good a character. I didn't drop it off there. I felt too bad. I couldn't go through with it. Poor Julie needs that money for a stargazing session or whatever it is that she wants. Does he give it back to him?
Yes, he does give it back.
I think he does, doesn't he? So
I felt really bad for him.
For Sean.
Yeah, just like the fact that he gave it back was really, really nice.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad he did.
Taking it in the first place was not great.
No. But I think I could understand that if he's desperate and he knows that it's just there, the telltale tenor.
I mean, Julie will be dead by summer.
Yeah.
So, and Dylan will still have a broken leg.
So anyway, Dylan's probably wouldn't be happy to find out about it, but I think it's definitely in Sean's character to not go through with it, because he's a good lad, really, isn't he? So he's like, sorry. And then, but yeah, the word soon gets to Brody that the money has not been wired through to him. So he goes into Dylan's cell and tells him, your dad's a pathetic loser, and closes the door behind him. what I'm interested in is he didn't actually break Dylan's legs, did he? So
No,
he didn't follow through on his threats. So if I was Sean here, I'd be like, oh, I got a bit of leverage. I think maybe I will not give in to you now because all you did is duff him up a little bit and he seemed pretty fine.
Also, maybe Sean could have given Dylan a bit of a heads up. You know, hey son, how are you? How are your legs? Are they okay at the moment? Because just to let you know, Brody tried to blackmail me and he's going to break your legs.
Yeah, you might want to just put the lock on your door.
Don't stand with your back to the door.
Yeah, he could have probably done that, didn't he? But
like, if Dylan had been waiting for Brody to come, could he have got the upper hand and beat him up first?
Maybe.
If he'd known that Brody was coming after him, because he didn't really know. He knew that he was very wary of Brody, but he didn't know Brody was going to beat him up.
No.
But Sean had warned him. He might have been able to kick him in the nuts or something.
Yeah, or maybe knife is his weapon of choice, isn't he? Maybe he could have stashed a plastic one from lunchtime. Maybe.
Well, I mean, what?
Well, that would just show he doesn't learn.
He should have just gone and beaten Brody up first. That's how it works in prison. I know.
I think that if Dylan took on Brody, then all the rest of the Brody ones would have fallen to Dylan's feet and hailed him the new kingpin of prison.
Or hail the new broccoli king.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well. Again, woulda, shoulda, coulda.
I mean, the thing is, this is just so painfully... I do feel like I've seen this story 100 times in the last 5 years on Coronation Street.
I know.
Of somebody getting beaten up in prison because somebody else didn't do something, and it's just so tedious, honestly. And it doesn't make me like any of the characters more. I do like Sean. I don't care about Dylan one way or the other, unfortunately, because of how dreadful he was with Liam. And it kind of feels, it's a poetic justice in a sense that he is now being victimised by someone else after he kind of was scared of Mason too, and he was bullied by Mason.
Yeah, but he and Liam had kind of made peace, hadn't they? So
what? He still did it.
Yeah. Anyway, Sean goes and tells George and Eileen about everything that's been going on, and they said, you probably should report him, actually, because he's just a kid. And you're a grown-up.
Yeah, why are you letting him
go and let his bosses know what's going on?
I know he's bullying Dylan because he's in prison with him, but he's bullying you on the end of the phone.
Yeah. It's like the banker off Deal or No Deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Banker says £500. What are you going to do, Sean? Oh, let's open another box.
Going to steal off Julie.
Anyway, Dylan gets a good kick in from Brody later, and a guard comes in and kind of turns a bit of a blind eye to it, doesn't he? Which is pretty terrible.
Well, they're like,
what's he doing
happened
on the floor? Nothing.
He just fell over.
So Brody goes to the wreck. Oh no, then.
The guard comes in.
The guard comes in and says, "Look, the director wants a word with you because Sean has been to the prison and dobbed him in. Good for you, Sean." And he returns to the rec room later and tells his mate that Dylan's ratted him out, and Dylan's like, no, I haven't. He goes to the guard demanding that he go and see the director himself to find out what's been going on. Meanwhile, back on the street, you got Sean, Eileen, George in the pub, and he says, I've spoken to Dylan's key worker, I've told them everything that's been going on. Also, just while in the spirit of honesty and openness, I did get Brody a burner phone and kind of snuck it into prison in Daniel's bag. Yeah, just so you know.
I didn't tell
anyone about that though. No, but I think his reasoning was that.
Why say anything?
Yeah, because Brody will isn't going to mention that himself. Otherwise,
Brody would
himself.
only say it by implicating himself, and so he doesn't.
Yeah, and if, by the way, you're wondering about what happened with the factory money, then it was Sean lies and says that Todd took the money to the bank. So it was all sorted then, basically.
They all end up in the pub, and who is it? Izzy and Kirk, I think, are like going, we haven't found the money yet. I think it's definitely that guy. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, sorry, we should have said we found it. And they were just like, oh, that's great. I'd be like, you what?
Drama over.
I've spent all day running around looking for that bloody money. You just tell me you found it ages ago and never said anything.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll steal it myself next time. Didn't Izzy steal money once?
Probably.
Everyone's stolen money out of a little brown paper packet from some charity. I tell you what, Coronation Street characters need to stop raising money for charity because it just gets nicked.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong there. Dylan is with Sean later. Sean goes to visit him, and Dylan has now told the governor that Brody's actually not being nasty to him, and he's not been beating him up, and he's not been threatening. Nothing. He says, Sean, you're a waste of space. Dad, stop interfering.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Dylan's like, everything's fine here, Dad.
But I mean, do we? Yeah, I mean, Brody. Oh, I don't know.
Well, he just knows. Dylan knows that if any more punishments get meted out to Brody, he's just going to take it out on him, and he's just hoping if he keeps his head down, he'll be able to ride it out.
Yeah, I can't remember how long he's got left in now. It's still another couple of months, isn't it? Was it 6 months in total? He got 6.5 months or something. Does he get a bit of time
Makes me
off
so
for good
mad.
behaviour?
Makes me so mad. I just want to go in there and just kick Brody in the head.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, doesn't it make you angry? Have I got some kind of horrible gene in me or something? Because when I see somebody getting picked on or something, or, you know, like a bunch of people being horrible to somebody, or, you know, what happened with Mason and chucking all the rubbish on Liam and everything, it just makes me want to go and kick somebody in the head.
I'll go in there with a spray gun and give him a bit and go, no.
Oh, I know what I could use. What I had at the allotment earlier.
Oh yeah.
Great big flamethrower.
Maybe that should be Sean's next plan.
And a bottle of paraffin.
Yeah. So this story kind of gets mingled
violent.
up. This story gets mingled up with what's going on with Mick and Lou because of the revelation there on Friday.
The Michaelis, can I just say also that they are the most annoying family, because every time I say their surname, I feel like I'm saying it wrong.
I'm the same.
But it's exactly how you say it, isn't it?
Is it Michaelis?
It just sounds wrong. It just sounds made up.
I can't remember whether anyone... Has
anyone ever said it?
Maybe Chesney did when he read it.
Well, how would you say it in a northern accent?
Michaelis.
Michaelis.
I don't know. I think that's right. But
it
doesn't feel like it's...
Sounds like you say it wrong.
Doesn't feel like it's actually a surname.
No.
I've never heard of anyone called this outside of Coronation Street. But anyway, so what we have also on Wednesday is that Chesney is going off to London for a food festival, because I don't know what inspiration you can take for your local fish and chip shop from a food festival down in the smoke.
What's he representing?
I'm not really sure.
The kebab shop or the fish and chip shop?
I think it was a fish and chip shop.
Dev wants him to go to
I
this
don't think
food
either way
festival.
it's going to... It doesn't feel like that's the sort of thing you need to concern yourself with.
Well, it's also like how... I know this is just getting too dense into it, but like, how are you... What equipment do you have to portably take a fish and chip making operation to London? Like,
I thought he was going there to like pick up some ideas. Like,
No,
I never actually thought of chicken and mushroom pies as well as my beef and onion ones.
What's that? Jelly deals?
Yeah, that's what he's going to
never heard of that up north.
With that, isn't he, Blimey? Yeah.
Oh, what? Pie and liquor instead of pie and gravy? Oh, they'll love it.
No, anyway,
I thought he was going to work there because...
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It just got him out of the house, doesn't it? Because he wasn't needed
Can I
for what's
suggest
going on the rest of the week.
If you want to do research by going by an Easter food festival, you could pretty much just go on Instagram and look at the pictures. I don't think you need to go there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that Dev and the chip shop were taking enough cash in to be able to fund Chesney going on a jaunt down south and staying in a hotel.
He's going to work there.
But why?
What new innovations in fish and chips could you really pick up from an Easter food festival?
No, deep fried something or other, maybe.
Oh my god!
Deep fried jelly deal.
This is amazing. They've got edible forks made of chips.
But is he going to be selling his wares to some of the cockneys down there and go, oh, next time I'm up in Weatherfield, I know where I'm going to be stopping for your fries only. Sorry, my accent not as good as Bernie's was.
Almost as good as
That was one of my favourite things on Friday's episode, Bernie and Gemma's
doing their
Cockney exchange. Tell you what,
I'm a Cockney!
Jane Hazelgrove just went to town with that, and she was absolutely brilliant. And
that was shots fired at EastEnders there. Do you think that EastEnders has had a... I'm a northerner. How do you do it?
I don't know. Anyway, that was fun. So anyway, Lou is looking for a job on Wednesday. Apparently she's a stylist and has worked all over the place, including for Claudia Colby one time.
And said she was a horrible cow, which made Audrey smile.
Yeah, so she goes along to Audrey's. She kind of puts her foot in her mouth a little bit by bad-mouthing Rita when she talks about going to the cabin. I don't believe it because... cabin doesn't exist anymore as far as I'm concerned.
Rita's never worked there in her life.
But yeah, she She
wants
goes
a job
back.
there.
She wants a job there. She manages to get herself a trial period, and she's also making herself invaluable to Gemma by looking after the quads or
Well, she's the reason why Gemma didn't want Chesney to go to this food festival is because she said she couldn't cope alone, and so Lou's like, "Don't worry, I'll help you."
Yeah, I really like Lou, and I know I'm not. I don't think I'm not supposed to like her. Mick's clearly being written as a scumbag villain, and Lou is his cheerleader. But I feel that she's just being loyal, blindly loyal to him. I don't think that she's got the same nasty streak as he does.
Well, she's got this very defensive attitude towards the suggestion that Mick or Brody have ever done anything wrong in their lives, which I think was... But this is a really well realised character, because there are hundreds of these women up and down the country, thousands and thousands of them, with wrong ends for relatives who cannot understand why everyone's got a problem with them being beaten up by them or like having stuff nicked.
I can really...
She's like the perfect encapsulation of that sort of person.
She's very rough, but I can totally see her as being a bit of a... if Roy got his hands on Lou, she'd be integrated. She'd have her...
No, I don't want that to happen, but I think, like Janice, she's got a really nasty streak. Like, loads of those women, they're really properly rough, kind of chavvy characters on Corrie that you don't really get anymore. Like, Gemma's not really like that.
No.
But this kind of character is kind of missing on Coronation Street.
Yeah, and Lou, to me, has got a real load of potential, and Farrell Hegarty is brilliant in the role. She's got the charm, I think.
She's got the charisma for it, yeah.
She's got the charisma
because you like her even though she's a bitch.
Yeah, and she hasn't done anything absolutely abhorrently irredeemable like Mick has, and Mick just goes from bad to worse on Friday's episode. I'd really like to see her escape him, if for lack of a better word, and fly solo, and I can see her being a really great addition to the street, but I don't know whether it's going to happen or not.
No, I really think she's got a lot of staying power, because like I said, there's not very many people like her, and she is an important archetype.
She is. To me, she's kind of fun, and that's something that we're missing a bit of in Coronation Street at the moment. She's fun with a very, very rough edge.
She's mercurial as well. Like, one minute she's like happy, and the next minute if you say anything, she's like, "I'm gonna rip your throat out."
Yeah.
It really does remind me of Janice, and I can't remember. There's even Hilda. Like, remember when everyone was saying that...
I don't know whether people would take too kindly to comparing Lou to Hilda, but go on.
Even when, I'm just saying, like, when everyone was horrible about Stan and said that he was the flasher.
Oh, yeah.
And she went into the Rovers and she spat on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, a character would never... Like, a character you're supposed to like would never do that now, I don't think.
No, I don't think
But
so.
Lou is... certainly... She wouldn't stop it.
No.
Spitting on the floor. She'd probably do a wee.
She would, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
I think that was when they were accusing Stan of being a peeping Tom rather than the Flasher. I can't remember. But yeah, no.
Oh, okay. One's looking, one's showing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really do think that Lou could have potential if Corrie wants to go there, but I don't know at the moment. But clearly, there is no way that Mick can stay in the show long term. They're just making him worse and worse and worse as the week goes on, and it's not like he's the sort of, we've been saying for years that we want to have somebody like a Les Battersby, kind of obnoxious but basically harmless kind of character.
Yeah, he's not there.
Les Battersby, sorry, he wouldn't beat somebody up and leave them for dead in the ginnel, and various other things that Mick's been getting up to. Especially within the first few months of his arrival on the street. So I think that his time on the street is very short, and if Lou is as loyal as she seemingly is, then could mean that she's going with him, sadly. But anyway, I'm still enjoying her while we've got her.
See, the reason why a character like Lou is important, and even Mick, is because at the moment everybody on Coronation Street is so predictable, because they're all good. They're all good. They're all got this moral backbone, and so because of that, they're all so similar, and they always get put in the same situations that it just feels just quite dull and predictable. So Sean, he's being blackmailed because his kid's in prison. So what does he do? Oh, he tries to go along with it, and he can't because he's too good, and so he tries to report him, and then he gets beaten up. Like, imagine Mick and Lou in that situation. What would they do? I don't know, but I'd like to see because I know it wouldn't be the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
What would Mick and Lou do if that somebody set fire to, like Max set fire to their house? I don't know, but I'd like to see it.
I don't know whether I want to see Mick doing anything.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
I kind of wash my hands of him a little bit.
But my argument is just simply that everybody in Coronation Street is kind of an amalgamation, or like they've turned everyone kind of cookie cutter a little bit, and everyone's very predictable. That's why I liked it when just to undermine what I've just said. That's why I liked it when with Kevin being like, look, I've got cancer, I'm annoyed.
Yeah, I'm allowed to be grumpy, aren't I?
I'm not going to be a good little, sad, quiet victim of cancer and sit nicely, and I'm going to moan and I'm going to bitch about it and I'm going to be grumpy and make everyone uncomfortable and keep bringing it up all the time.
I think that's one of the reasons why she's a bit more interesting to me as well, because she's not a cookie cutter.
Yeah, she's unpredictable.
She's a proper.
She definitely feels a bit more like Lou with some of the harsh edges knocked out, because she, like when who was it came around, Sally and Tim, to complain about Hope and Ruby throwing water balloons. She just laughed at them, time to get bent.
Yeah, I can see Lou doing that. Anyway, so Friday's episode rolls round, and Sean's talking to Daniel in the cafe, and he's like, "You don't believe that Brody's innocent, do you?" And Daniel just seems to want to stay out of it. Then Sean admits that Brody has got a burner phone. He's like, "Yeah, sorry, Daniel, I kind of snuck it into the prison via your bag." And Daniel's furious about this. Mick's listening in. Daniel isn't really playing much of a role in this story at all, is he? For a prison story where he's being a teacher now, I'd have thought that he might get involved more. Maybe that's still to come. I'm not necessarily gagging
really
for it to
be
happen,
involved.
But I'm surprised how little it's being.
I'm surprised.
Mentioned.
I'm surprised how little he's involved in the Daisy and Jenny storyline.
Yes, I know, totally.
It's like he's gone. I wash my hands of you lot.
Yeah, I do like my Daniel and Daisy. I've always said I'm a shipper for those two. I would like to see a lot more of Daniel there at the moment, but I guess he must be just busy or something.
It's like he's gone, look,
doing his marking.
Enough of your nonsense. I know I'm in the show, but I don't want to be in it anymore. I'm just going to live in Coronation Street and ignore your shenanigans.
As time will come. Right, Bernie and Gemma are chatting about Chesney and London. This is when we have that brilliant Cockney scene. And the quads are there painting Easter eggs. It was definitely Easter weekend on Coronation Street. Suddenly, in today's episode, everybody realised it was Easter and they're all buying Easter eggs for each other. And the quads were painting...
Hang on. As I recall, a lot of people were just saying, I was going to buy you an Easter egg.
Well, it's still Good Friday. They should have really been just sharing the hot cross bun, shouldn't they? But Easter, the next time we see Coronation Street, Easter will have happened, but yet it will still be the day after Good Friday. Don't ask any questions about it.
That's probably how Jesus did it.
I loved.
Don't you think?
Do you reckon?
Yeah, it was all sleight of hand, and people getting confused about what day it is because they got so much time off work.
Because there weren't any episodes.
They're like, I thought you were dead yesterday. No.
I did love that scene ending with Bernie looking at the the brown speckled egg that
was
it Bryn? No, it was Bryn. And she just kind of the line is Bryn, what is that? It almost felt like that was something that was added to the script at the end because these quads were given free rein to paint the eggs however they wanted. He just made his look like a bit of a turd in an egg cup.
It did a bit, yeah. I think that this is the actor who plays Bryn's villain origin story though, because he's going to be like, you told me to paint this egg like a giant poo, and then you make fun of me on national television. Well, I'm going to bide my time, okay, and then I'm going to become the director of programming at ITV, and I'm going to cancel this show, and you're all going to lose your jobs. You wait.
The funniest kid-related thing that I found on Friday's episode was when Lou leaves number 5 later on, and she calls upstairs for her own children to come down. Like, come on, girls.
They don't even have names. They're just the girls.
I know. They don't have names. They don't have faces.
No.
Like, nice try, Coronation Street, for making us believe that these characters exist. Is the only reason that Mick and Lou have got these children to make as a way of getting Gemma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has Gemma even seen these children? Is Lou lying to her too?
I think it would have been better if they had cast some kids just for a couple of scenes so
hilarious
we
to
could believe
imagine.
they exist.
These children could be 5 or 25.
Yeah,
There could be 3 of them. There could be 15 of them. We don't know how many girls.
Because it's like Lou's got children that we never see. They've got a house that we never see.
Yeah, you just hear it.
Yeah. Anyway, Gemma hears that things are going a bit pear-shaped to coin a Cockney term, not to use a Cockney term, in the salon with Lou. So she kind of rushes over there, and then
Lou and Maria are having
that's it. Yeah, over some colour or something. Lou ends up chucking some dye over Maria, and
she gets in trouble. And Maria's like, "You're gonna be fired."
Yeah, well,
and no, the point of this is Lou's upset because she's found out her son is in trouble.
Her son is in trouble. That's right.
This is why I like this character, because she has real trouble with emotional regulation. Like, she can't, if she's upset about something, she can't compartmentalize it and get on with her day. She has to ruin her life because she's upset about something. She's so self-destructive, and she makes so many bad decisions. But there are so many people like this in real life.
Yeah, it hadn't been mentioned, I don't think, at all that Lou and Mick had an older child, had it?
No, they do bring this up, and she's like, "Oh well, yeah, no, I didn't mention him before." No, and it does come up.
It's one of these things that you think maybe somebody might have mentioned. You know, if Gemma clearly knows that Lou and Mick's got a kid in prison, and maybe she would say, "Oh, Sean, he's got a kid in prison." It's one of these things like, you know, like the Chesney van situation still hasn't come out, and it's like, it probably would have come out by now. But anyway, the big reveal is that Brody is Mick and Lou's son, and the next scene we get to see the camera panning around Brody speaking to somebody, and it's Mick. So yeah, the theorists were right there. Listeners, had you put 2 and 2 together and figured that one out? There was one clue, wasn't there, which was about a month or so ago. Brody happened to mention to one of the Brody bunch, "Oh, my parents have just moved to Weatherfield."
Yeah,
and that was them just laying the foundations and sowing the seeds, so they can say, "We told you." But don't think I would have ever guessed. I don't know. So well done to whoever did come up with that theory. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that probably is true, actually, isn't it?" And by golly, it was. So he's there telling Mick, because Mick's overheard this going on in the cafe earlier, and he's swearing to his dad that Dylan and Sean are lying. "I've not done anything wrong. Me, extort people, kick people, threaten to break legs. No, I'd never do that." So Gemma and Lou later are in the pub. Lou's sobbing and snotting away about what happened in the salon, and then she talks about Brody and the STC, and this makes Sean's ears prick up behind the bar. And Lou saying, "Yeah, it's horrible. People are even accusing him of extortion." And then she goes off to the Lou.
Well, she's like, "He doesn't even know how to spell it."
Oh yeah, that's right. Then Lou goes to the Lou. Gemma takes the opportunity to go up to the bar and say to Sean, "You hear what's going on here?" And Gemma takes Sean's side, which is refreshing.
I think Sean says to Gemma, "Did I hear that right?"
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd say it was refreshing that Gemma takes Sean's side as her friend of 10 plus years.
Yeah, and co-worker.
Yeah.
She's like, "Look, I think you should."
Yeah, because this episode was about Gemma feeling a little insecure about the state of her friendship with Lou and Mick, and now they've got her over a barrel a little bit.
Well, no, it's her realising these people are
a little dangerous. Yeah, exactly. So
meanwhile, Audrey's decided that Lou's going to get a second chance.
Yes, yeah. Gemma and Lou go back to number 5. Mick turns up and says, "It's all sorted with Brody, and if anyone asks, I've been here for the last couple of hours. All right?" Oh dear, poor Sean. He's been beaten up in the ginnel. He's got blood all over him. Either that or he's got dementia, and he's just had one of those.
Just one of these confusing fools.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because I think I'm right in saying that Ronnie still suspects Mick of beating up Debbie in the ginnel, doesn't he?
Yeah, maybe he was getting some kind of future vibes.
Maybe he was. I think that
maybe he's psychic.
I think that Ronnie's gonna find out that Sean's been beaten up by Mick, and then Ronnie's gonna be like, "See, look, you do go around assailing innocent people innocent camp neighbours in the ginnel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's possibly something to keep an eye on there. Anyway, poor old Sean, he kind of hobbles out to Viaduct Street. He's coughing and wheezing. Luckily there, Theo's around to help him out, and he phones an ambulance, and off he goes to hospital, where Eileen soon joins him, and he just doesn't really want to talk about it.
I thought this was interesting that Theo's the one who found him, because I wonder if this will come up or not, because obviously Theo is closeted, and
Okay, yes.
we get the impression that it's because he is worried about upsetting his wife and his ruining his family, and his whole life would change completely. And he's also, but there's a comment about religion, and we don't know whether it's his or hers or both.
No, I can't remember.
But now he's seen this gay guy get beaten up in the ginnel. Is that going to make him think, I'm going to have a target on my back if I come out, people will know that I'm gay and I might get beaten up? I just thought it was interesting that it was Theo of all people who found him, and it seemed like Theo then relayed the information to Todd and Sarah, and that was as far as it went, but it didn't come up again, and I thought that was interesting.
Well, that would
I
be
think
a
it would
theological
be on my mind.
conclusion.
It would be on my mind if I was struggling with my, outing myself, and then I see this happen. It wasn't because Sean was gay that he got beaten up, but you might not come to that conclusion if you only saw a limited amount of evidence.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder what if Sean had looked up and gone, hang on a minute, I recognise you from Gay Bang. Oh, go on, take your top off.
And then Theo just beats him until he goes unconscious.
My gay fairy godmother come to help me.
Oh.
Anyway, he goes to hospital. He doesn't really want to say who did it, but when Craig turns up, he does eventually confess to him. So Craig ends up going to number 5, wanting a word with Mick down at the station. There's been an allegation that he seriously assaulted somebody, and Mick's like, no, I didn't. I've been here all this time, haven't I? Gemma's there looking like, what have I got myself into here?
Another fine mess I've got myself into.
Yeah, so she goes to the shop later, does Gemma, and she's talking to Bernie and then Ardy, I think he's there, saying about Mick wanting an alibi, and Bernie says, well...
Bernie was great.
Right, go on.
Bernie was like, I'm going to beat this guy up. I'm going to give him what for. I can't believe he's done this. There's no way you're giving him an alibi. They're wrong-uns, these guys. You shouldn't be friends with them. Which was funny, because earlier she was asking Lou for a bag of spring rolls.
So at the STC, Daniel...
Well, hang on. Eileen also comes in and tells them Sean's absolutely terrified.
Yes, it's a terrifying situation. At the STC, Daniel wants a word with Dylan, and he says about the phone, and Dylan's like, sorry, I was desperate, it won't happen again. So they kind of tie a bow in.
You're missing it again, though.
Oh yeah, this is when Daniel... sorry, I forgot. I'm skipping. We've been talking about this story forever.
You're trying to go really fast.
I know, it's just because we've been talking a lot about this story. Daniel says to Dylan, oh, have you spoken to your dad? Yes. Have you spoken to him since he got beaten up in an alley?
What?
No. So yeah, the Dylan knows all about this now. Mick's out of the police station later. Thank you very much for sparing us those police station scenes. Very, very good of you, Coronation Street. And he corners Gemma around the back of the pub, and he's like proper intimidating to her, isn't he? There wasn't really any sense of, we're mates and mates stick together. It was like, you had better keep your mouth shut about the fact that I wasn't there with you all afternoon.
You give me an alibi because you don't want me as your enemy.
Yeah.
Because I'll kick you as well.
Yeah, but he basically says, I'm going to come after your family
if
you dob me in.
He's saying, it's very interesting you're saying all this to me when my wife's looking after your kids. How are they, by the way?
Yeah.
So Gemma rushes home, completely freaking out, because Lou's there with the kids, thinking something terrible has happened. But she doesn't say that to Lou, does she?
No.
When she realises that everything's okay.
Yeah. Lou recognises that Gemma's a bit out of sorts, and Gemma says, oh yeah, my mate Sean's been
No, she says it was him. It was the guy who got beaten up that everyone thinks Mick did. It was my friend, actually.
Yeah. And Lou realises as well that this might be why Mick was pulled in earlier.
Yes.
And Gemma's saying, look, has Mick been violent before? And this is when Lou, like you said, she very wants to do, is takes offence and is like, no, don't think so. And she kind of storms out rather than confronting what she probably knows about her husband, is that he has definitely got a nasty streak there. So she calls the invisible children down from upstairs, and off she goes. Sean comes to number 5 later, asking Gemma if she told Mick that he'd reported Brody, and she's like, no. Then he realises that he must have overheard him at the cafe earlier, and
Mick
this is what
heard him.
Yeah, and this is what started off this whole chain of events. And he says, well, that it was Mick who duffed me up. I'll tell you, Gemma. And Gemma says, maybe you shouldn't have reported Mick, because people like him can make things even worse. And is this going to tie in as well to, Sean reported Mick, then he got himself beaten up. So is this going to make him feel more secure about the fact that he's not...
What are you talking about?
Yeah, he didn't report Brody at first, but then he did, and then he reported Mick. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But Gemma's basically saying, like, Mick's threatened my family, and he's going to do worse to you, probably. I think you should keep your mouth shut about this.
So
I don't think any good can come of it.
Sean goes to the police station and he says, I need to change my statement. So, he's not only dancing to Brody's tune at the moment, but also Mick is calling the shots. They're both fighting over who's pulling the puppet strings. Yeah. Anyway, so I definitely enjoyed this story much more on Friday. It's been very much kind of meandering up until this point, but now it's the stakes are raised a bit more.
It's frustrating though.
It is frustrating. I'm liking that Gemma now fears her new friends, neighbours.
I wonder how they're going to be with her.
Yeah.
Are they going to carry on chumming up with her, and she's going to be too scared to tell them where to go?
I wonder whether Lou would actually say to Mick, "Did you do it?" Or whether she would just trust him, or if she did ask him whether he's done it, whether he, would she be scared that he would raise his fists to her? I don't know whether he would.
I wouldn't like it to go down that route, because I think it turns into a completely different story. It turns into a domestic abuse story, and I just genuinely think that there are plenty of people who are nasty and perfectly happy for their relatives to be wrong-ins and beat people up without living under the threat of violence themselves. I think there are just people that are nasty and don't care what happens to other people as long as they're all right.
I want Lou to be brave and make the first move and escape this horrible relationship.
But she's been completely conditioned by the sort of the world that she's been brought up in. Like, you don't grass. So you sort your own problems out. Somebody's mouthing off to you, beat them up.
Yeah. And
there's nothing really wrong, I mean... It's just living a different...
So Sean's dropped the charges, so Mick's going to get away with this. But I still wouldn't be surprised if somehow Ronnie gets mixed up in this next week as well, just because of the previous allegations that Mick beat up Debbie in the ginnel.
Allegations?
Allegations. Yeah, that's what posh people call ginnels, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ginnelgations. What's been going on with the silver-tongued fox this week, Gemma? Your favourite Theo.
Well,
poor... his bonking sessions.
Who do I hate more out of Theo and Carl?
Carl clearly is vile.
Okay.
Carl is the worst character. He's horrible. There's nothing redeemable about him. He's not like he's got himself into a difficult situation like Theo has. And I don't want to defend Theo too much, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if at the end of this story we're going to be in a situation where we go, okay, we'll forgive Theo for what he's done before. Let's just get on with it. But I can't see Carl, and maybe, he's only been in it a week, 2 weeks. I can't see him ever being redeemed for this, and I think the worst is yet to come. But anyway, sorry, you go on. What's been going on in Todd Town?
Monday, Julie's had a very painful night, and the nurse has had to come to visit her, and she's apologising and hobbling around, and she changes the subject away from her to ask Todd about Theo. And he says it's complicated, but she says, look, if it's worth fighting for, you should go for it. Because, she's kind of... Her life is very uncomplicated at the moment, in that she thinks, don't worry about anything, just do what you want. Yeah. I wish I had done it more when I had the chance, and now I don't. So don't live your life with regrets, even though it's actually slightly more difficult than that is. So Todd sees Sarah in the cafe, and if this week did anything. It was making Todd and Sarah's relationship very sweet.
Yes.
Even though she's such an enabler.
She's totally. But I'm really
And a
glad
bit
that
of
they're
a-
leaning into Todd and Sarah's history, because there've been so many years where they don't acknowledge each other.
It's just really nice to see.
It was
them.
really, really nice, as difficult a situation as it was, but the whole date on Friday was so much fun. And I think put these two together more.
Yeah. I just wish that she was not aiding and abetting.
Yes.
So she says, look, I know this is really difficult. Why don't you come to my house if you need to sleep because of what happened with Julie?
People on Coronation Street, they get one disturbed night and there's like...
The end of the world.
It is. Maybe because I generally get 4 or 5 hours of sleep and I'm fine.
I know, but you go to sleep immediately.
Yeah.
You haven't struggled to sleep ever, I don't think.
No.
So... Theo and his wife turn up at the Undertaker's with their children, and this is a new development. And so Todd's there just kind of mind-boggled at these poor grieving children.
Do you think this is why they couldn't cast Lou and Mick's younger kids, because they've used up their child budget on the Silverton?
They should have just got these kids to sort of kneel down and wear wigs.
Yeah, they're going to do, reuse them. I think the girl got one line or something, didn't she? The poor boy didn't get to say anything.
Well, they were just very sad and they want to say goodbye to Grandma.
Yeah, honestly, it just makes Theo worse, doesn't it? Not only does he have a kid, a wife, but he's got 2 kids as well. And I don't know how much before it had been made clear how long he'd been together with Danielle. But
long enough to have teenage children.
Exactly. And how old were they? 14, 15, 16 odd? So, and has he been having these feelings about men all the time? Has Todd been the one that's lit the fire?
No, because he went on Gay Bay. This idea that Todd has awakened something in Theo that he never knew was there before, and it's true love and it's not his fault, is absolutely ridiculous, because he went on a dating app to find a guy. So he was looking for a man, and I don't know how many men he's found. He's kind of making out to Todd that it's the first relationship he's ever had. I don't know that I believe it.
I don't believe anything that Theo says.
I just don't think it's incredibly sensible, or it certainly doesn't make me sympathise towards you that you've decided that now is the perfect time to go on a gay dating app when your wife is grieving her mother.
No, it's
you could have waited a little bit, couldn't you?
Yeah. They're not even doing. Oh, maybe I'm glad that they're not doing it, but they're not making Danielle out to be some kind of harpy or kind of controlling bitch.
We don't know. She just seems
like a poor, grieving, nice woman.
I'm really waiting for them to just throw her under the bus and be like, she was a bitch all the time.
And so were the children.
Yeah, the children are evil too.
Do you get the impression, like I do, that Corrie wants us to be rooting for Theo in this?
Definitely for Todd.
Yeah.
But I just think that somebody this duplicitous, it can't be trusted.
No, it's just a shame, because I would have totally been going for those two together.
And just the way that Sarah's helping and sitting there looking at this woman and just lying to her face and pretending to be Todd's girlfriend so that she doesn't suspect anything. It's just really horrible.
Yeah, especially like you said, when she has been in the exact same
you
position
said
as
that,
Danielle.
didn't you?
Yeah.
I just feel I would have felt a lot more sympathetic to Theo if he had met Todd organically and they had and he had realised. But the fact that he was just looking for any guy, I just there are other times you could have picked to do this than when your
I wonder whether the story would have benefited from a bit longer before these revelations came out. Like if we'd have properly
Theo had been Todd's boyfriend for
if we'd have properly got invested in Todd and Theo as a couple and go, oh, what a lovely guy Theo is, that might have made it harder to turn our backs on him. But because it's only been 5 minutes, I'm like saying, no, cut him loose, Todd. You get him to solve his own problems, sort his own problems out first, then maybe give him another try. I don't know. I know there's a lot more to this than just man cheats on his wife, but that's the sticking point that I'm on, I'm afraid, and I'm not going to go anywhere else with it than that, because I can't see how
is the sympathetic character.
Do you think? I wonder whether it's one of the reasons why Sarah is just so not bothered by the whole thing is because she's too loved up herself with Kit at the moment. Because this little new relationship has now sprung up out of nowhere, hasn't it?
Well, she's besotted with him at the moment, isn't she?
Yeah, I saw somebody posting a picture on Twitter. I think it was Monday night of a bedpost with tallies all over it, and it was like, "Here's Sarah Lou's bedpost." Like,
dear me.
Yeah.
Well, where's Adam gone? He's disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know what Adam's doing at the moment.
Right, so Todd's reaction initially is like, oh, this gets better and better. And then Theo's like, let's talk in private. So what they do is shag.
Yeah.
They go back to Sarah's place.
Well, that's that sorted then.
And they shag each other. And also, at some point, Kit and Sarah meet up because somebody nicks her phone and he helps her.
Oh, this is just what leads to those two getting together, doesn't it?
So even though Todd's just shagged him, he's like, Theo, what's your game? I've had it with you. And Theo's
do they bonk on Monday?
Well,
yes, they do, don't they? Possibly.
And Theo's like, no, I think about you all the time. I've never felt like this about anybody. And Todd's like, no, get out and come back later. Come back on Wednesday. Because on Wednesday they do it again. On Wednesday they do it again. And he's like, Todd tells Theo about his backstory and says that I was with Sarah, actually. You know, you're not the only gay man who's ever been in a relationship with a woman. So I understand it's taken you a long time to accept who you are. And Theo's like, I can't make promises. I can't commit to you. And Todd's like, okay, but I hope you can accept yourself one day. And then they kiss each other. And then Sarah
Todd's
comes
situation
home.
was at least, yes, he was in a serious relationship with Sarah, but they were young. They weren't married.
They had a baby.
They had a baby on the way.
It's quite a bit of a commitment.
But I think Theo is worse. I think there is some forgiving of Todd and being young and naive and confused.
I'm also going to say that
Theo's not confused.
We haven't seen Theo's life. We've got no reason. The only reason you'd have to sympathise with Theo is if you feel like it's really important for me, or like I've had this experience myself, or I can see how he's come to this. Like in theory. With Todd, we actually saw it happen, and you could feel some sympathy for him, but there's none of that with Theo at all. No. So I don't. If Corey wants us to sympathise with him, then they're not doing a good job at all.
Not good enough yet.
But I don't know if that's what the point of this is. At the end of the day, we could get another rug pull with Danielle going to Todd. Oh, he's told you this sob story, has he? Let me tell you this. He's been having affairs with men the whole time we've been together, and I've told him if he wants to leave me and go off and have a relationship with a man, he can, but he won't. He keeps saying he's going to stop doing it, and then I find him doing it again. That it could be that rug pull where she knows that he's at the very least bisexual, if not gay, and she's
I would have thought that Theo might have said that to Todd.
No, but this might be part of his little. I want to get with a guy and I'm going to lie to him to make it easy for me, because honestly, this is easy for Theo. Theo's got a boyfriend at his beck and call who's do anything for him. He'll sleep with him whenever he wants to, and then he can go back to his wife and kids. This is really convenient for Theo because he doesn't have to date him. He doesn't have to buy him gifts or take him out for meals or whatever, or spend all his time with him. He's like, you're the bit on the side, Todd. Because I have to keep everything a secret.
Todd is the dirty bit on the side here, isn't he?
Maybe
he's gonna grow to
I
resent
do think
that.
I'm waiting for a twist to happen, is what I'm saying here.
I think the twist that we're seeing is the whole complication with Sarah and Todd being set up as a romantic partner in Danielle's eyes. And at the end of Friday's episode,
that's true. If
Danielle sees Kit and Sarah together, doesn't she? So. So I think they're setting some nice foundations for shocking revelations there.
Yeah, but only for Danielle, because everyone else knows what's going on.
Danielle.
So Sarah comes in and finds Todd in her dressing gown washing the sheets, like I said earlier, and he's like, "Oh, it's back on with Theo," and Theo is panicking because Danielle's just said, "I'm coming to see you," like she's Davina coming to the Big Brother house. So he's like, please can you please can you help me?
So he tells Sarah to go to speed dial to warn
Todd.
Todd's there.
That's
no, it's
right.
Theo's left his. We'd forgotten this. Theo left his phone.
Somebody didn't write
as you do.
Somebody didn't write
You did not write these notes. This was me. Theo left his phone in Sarah's flat because
why not? And so he's gone ahead to speed dial to have lunch with Todd. And so Todd says, I'm in my dressing gown and you're in your dressing gown. Sarah, can you run ahead to speed dial and warn Theo that Danielle's coming? So she does that just in time for Danielle to find them. That's right, because he's bringing the food back, isn't he? Theo's bringing the food back. And Sarah's like, oh, I know Theo through Todd. And Theo says that's Sarah's boyfriend, who I've done a quote for. So now Danielle's been introduced and thinks that Sarah and Todd are dating. And that this meal that Theo has so thoughtfully bought is for her and him to eat, not him and his secret boyfriend.
It's a fun little setup.
Todd and Sarah chat in the cafe later, and he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to tempt Theo away from Danielle. And Sarah's like, don't give up.
You can break up this family.
You can make these children into even sadder than they are already by having their parents get divorced.
And make them resent their father for abandoning them and splitting up the family. I believe in you, Todd. Honestly. Just because she... Oh.
Why wouldn't you say... Why can't you just wait and honestly, if Theo loves Todd as much as he's pretending he does, he would split up with Danielle.
Sarah, I guess, just doesn't really know what a healthy long-term relationship is like.
Sarah's got no morals.
Sarah's happy to shack up with somebody for a couple of years and then get bored of them and then off they go. So maybe she thinks everybody's like that.
How many characters on Coronation Street would just not have an affair?
Oh,
even Hayley, do you remember when she went to Africa? She came back going, that vicar was really handsome.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. Right, so Friday, Sarah's flirting with Kit and gets him to take her out to the bistro later, which sets up.
She's got such an eye for bad lads, hasn't she? And I know Kit's not on the same level as Callum Logan, but she just can't help be attracted to people who... are going to do bad to her.
Yeah.
Like, I can just see Gail or Audrey going, oh, Sarah Lou, not again. Oh, she just can't help it.
Yeah.
She's not a bad girl, is she? I think she likes the idea of somebody being a bit naughty.
I don't know what she likes.
I don't know.
So Sarah comes home later and finds Todd and Theo there again. So this is the third, if you're counting, this is the third time now.
Yeah,
and she's like, whatever.
She's given them permission, so they're
carry on.
Okay.
Carry on.
She's like, nice going, lads. Yeah, thumbs up.
Whatever.
You've done it again, have you?
Whatever.
Hope you cleaned up afterwards. You go for it.
It doesn't matter. Todd and Theo go to the bistro later, and she's there with them, and they're all drinking. And she says, "Look, you're gonna have to sort out something at some point." I think is it Todd and Sarah in the bistro? You've written Todd and Bistro in the bistro.
Todd and Sarah are in the bistro.
And then Theo's not there yet. And then Danielle comes in, so it's just Todd, Sarah, and then Danielle comes in and finds them two, and they pretend they're on a date. And she says, "Oh, Theo's been really busy recently. Sorry, I'm sharing my personal information there. No, he's not busy, Danielle. You're just grieving alone with your children because he's off." Dirtying Sarah's sheets up.
Gross.
Theo eventually shows up and Todd does his best to put on a big display of like, oh, I love Sarah. Gives her a big kiss just as Kit turns up. That was so funny.
I love that. And Sarah kind of squirming as Todd plants one on her lips. That was fun. I would have thought that Danielle should have noticed that Sarah wasn't completely into that, but that was a funny moment.
They both just sit there in silence waiting for Kit to see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kit walks in, doesn't he?
So Sarah leaps up and says to Kit, "Look, sorry about this," and he kind of finds it funny, and says, "I'll have your date with you another time, but leave your gay boyfriend at home, please." So Sarah goes back to the table, and Danielle's talking about her mum and her dying, and she thinks that Theo's taking it badly. He's probably thrilled his mother-in-law's died. So he's getting one step closer to getting that inheritance. Probably why he's still with Danielle. He's waiting for all the payout from her parents.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he's been so distant. And then Danielle says, oh, Sarah, Todd, come round for a barbecue next week. Is this an on location barbecue, Danielle?
Oh no, this is a barbecue where they talk about having had it. I would love this.
I would love
this
to
was
see
such a setup
garden
for a classic Corrie comedy awkward social scene. It's not going to happen, and I don't know this. I've not looked at the spoilers for next week, but just knowing what Corrie's like, this is a scene that absolutely should happen, but won't. Or they could go down the. No, there isn't even. They can't even say, "Oh, well, let's have it at our house instead," can they? Because
no, there's nowhere.
There's nowhere particularly. Is the garden at number 8? Is that free to use again?
Which one's that?
That's the burnt out house, so it doesn't matter if it goes. The barbecue goes a bit.
Fly, does it?
Yeah, I would love to see this because I think there is a lot of mileage.
There's a lot of
in
innuendo
Sarah
around the
and
sausage.
Todd. There is a lot of sausage innuendo, but no, there's a lot of mileage in Todd and Sarah having to pretend to be going out with each other, and I feel like it's going to be squandered.
The thing is, it's not like a barbecue at Danielle's house is going to have a character come along who knows who Todd and Sarah are and knows that they're not going out with each other and that Todd is gay. And I can't see how, unless they invite another load of characters and they're like, "What are you doing? You're not together."
Maybe, I don't know, but it's still just the awkwardness of it, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it'd be hilarious and brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's why they won't do it. So Sarah meets Kit in the street again and says, "Oh, I've got the flat to myself." And don't worry, they've cleaned all the sheets. Goes in for a kiss and then immediately pushes him away because Theo and Danielle drive past in a taxi and Kit's like, "I can't be bothered with this," and he goes off by himself.
Yeah. I think probably. Do you think that Danielle did see something then? Because what happened there seems like it's the sort of thing that would happen maybe towards the beginning of another episode, and then the quandary for that episode is having to explain their way out of it, or is that the big revelation? Or
literally, all they have to do is go, "Oh yeah, Sarah's a skank."
Yeah, basically.
And she cheated on Todd.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, so what? What does Danielle even care one way or the other? The only reason, I don't even remember why they pretended they were going out with each other.
It was just a way of...
Just for a funny joke.
Yeah, it was just a way of explaining why Theo knew Todd or something. Oh, it doesn't matter. It was. I enjoyed it all the same.
Well, look, I do know we've spent a lot of time obsessing over Sarah Louise's sheets. We've got to stop.
She invites it.
They all brought it up first.
Right, Debbie and Carl and all that depression on Monday and Wednesday.
Which medical storyline is this, Michael?
This is multiple medical storylines. This one.
This is 2 in 1. And
So
then we get another one later on.
I was disgusted by the toast bacon sandwich, the burnt toast bacon sandwich that we were greeted with on Monday.
Yeah, I've never seen the like of it in my life.
No, I had what was that? I had a
What?
What was that thing that I had with toast the other day? That's usually Eggs Benedict. I had with toast the other week, and that wasn't any good either. You don't, if you're having a bacon butty in the morning, you don't have toast with it. Let alone
nice, thick, soft farmhouse white bread with lovely butter on it, and the bacon melting the butter and delicious. Not
Absolutely.
like a claggy old
this.
toast.
But anyway, this all comes
toast.
about because Carl wants it on Monday morning. Abby's making it for Kev, but he's not up for it because he's still feeling sick.
Kevin spends the whole week going, "I don't want any food.
I know.
I am ill." And everyone spends the whole week going, "Here you go.
Have a special meal.
Let's go to a restaurant. Let's have a wedding food tasting. Do you want this burnt toast?"
I know. Go on. You do want to eat, don't you, Kevin? Yeah, go on, Kev. It's just it's a morning scene there. Carl ends up having the sandwich, doesn't he? Or is it Jack? I can't remember. Carl kind of admits to Jack that he and Kevin don't really know each other very well at all. I grew up in Germany. I was raised by my mum and Bill. But now I'm here anyway, and I want to help, and I want to get to know you well now. And he looks at Abby and he's like, "I want to get to know you really, really well." Disgusting. He's hanging around the house later, making more creepy insinuations about his intentions towards Abby, who's still, fair play to her, for now, being very resistant. I hope she doesn't get talking to Sarah Louise, because Sarah was just like, Yeah, go for it, Abby. Drop your jaws. Kevin doesn't need to know about it. He won't mind. It's just normal. Do it.
Oh, are you definitely married to Kevin? Well, then even better then, won't it? It'll be an affair.
You and Kyle can come round my flat if you like.
Yeah, I'll have to open another spare bedroom.
She's going to literally turn it into a brothel, isn't she?
Yeah.
Anyway, Kevin's is being taken to the hospital by Debbie.
Well, because Carl's forgotten.
Carl's forgotten, even though he's not the one with dementia. Sebby's also supposed to be going to her medical appointment at the memory centre for a RAM upgrade on Monday, isn't she? So she's ignoring all these calls from the memory centre while she's waiting in the oncology department with Kevin.
I know this is a bit dark, but they're probably quite used to people missing.
Probably are, aren't they? Probably
That's probably why they're so insistent on calling you. Like, normally a hospital would be like, sorry, you forgot, it's your own fault.
We'll just put you on the statistics poster where we try and guilt people into
you cost us $1 million last week.
By not turning up for your
next appointment's in 6 months' time. Good luck. I hope you're not dead.
But anyway, she's there with Kevin, and they have a lovely little reminisce about good times with Bill. I don't think they were actually reminiscing about anything that we saw, but it was lovely all the same. And there's one incident, I can't remember what it was now, that Kevin says, I'd forgotten about that. And Debbie's like, well, I never forget anything, me. And she gives a bit of a sad look to herself because she knows what's coming.
How poignant.
Very
that wouldn't
poignant
happen
stuff.
to me. I'd be like, well, finally I've got a reason why I can't remember anyone's name.
Carl shows up eventually, and Debbie takes the excuse and hurries off to the memory centre, leaving the two brothers together. So Abby, meanwhile, later, phones up Kevin and says, we're going to have a lovely film afternoon together. I've got everything set up. It's going to be lovely. But then Carl's
on the other end of the phone. She thinks it's Kevin.
Yeah, that's it.
He's like, oh, how lovely. And she's like,
just
no,
very slimy
not for you.
Because he and Kevin are at the pub by this point, aren't they? That's right, that's what happened. So Abby marches into the pub, Kev's in the bog, and she demands that Carl let Kevin come home with her. She's like, you knew that I wanted to spend time with him this afternoon. How dare you take him away to the pub here? And Kev comes back from the loo saying, am I missing something?
Because they're having an argument.
Carl says, we may as well fess up. And later, at last, Abby has said to him, yeah, Carl was the guy at the car park. He really wound me up, and that's why I didn't want to say anything about it. And all the things that we could have avoided if we just confessed this all along.
Well, they don't mention the flirting.
Yeah, they don't mention that part of it clearly. Yes. So I'm so deeply uninterested in all of this going on between Abby and Carl and Kevin because I'm repulsed by it. The Todd and Theo's thing is bad enough, but Carl makes my skin crawl so much. It's ick. It's gross.
I really hope
he's vile man.
That they don't end up having an affair because
I really want them to resist.
He is so rapey and gross.
Yeah, he is.
And
honestly, I don't want her to be worn down or anything.
Yeah, it just gives it all the wrong messages. Like this is like the 90s sitcom guy being persistent in inverted commas and actually he's just being a stalker.
And eventually she's rewarded. Like, oh, go on then.
Yeah.
It's horrible to imagine if they actually have an affair. Do
not understand why Abby doesn't just say to Kevin, this guy keeps coming on to me. I know he's your brother, but you don't know him that well, do you? Can we get him to move out?
Look, that's exactly.
Why is she acting like he's holding something over her? He's not.
It would have caused some short-term difficulties for her. And would Kevin? I would hope that Kevin would believe her, but this is a soap after all, and I'm sure that Carl would do his best to say, "Oh no, she doesn't know what she's talking about." But
this is the sort of thing that guys do, and then they see something like this, and then if Abby eventually does go to bed with him, all of this behaviour that he's done, that Carl's done,
it's worth it.
Gets excused because she liked it really, and she liked it really is like rape culture in one sentence.
She's given a couple of sly looks to the camera, hasn't she? And that was more at the beginning. I think that since he's turned up and she's known that he's Kevin's brother, he's been off limits to her.
Just please don't go down this route because
no, I really, really don't want it. I want this should be a story about the strength and unity of Kevin and Abby together, not.
But I don't know where this is going. I don't know if they will end up having an affair, but if they do, I'm going to be really disappointed.
I'd be so disappointed in Abby. I really, really would. And I know she's got form for falling off various wagons, but
I'd be disappointed in Coronation Street because this is sleazy harassment, sexual harassment. and turning it into a romantic, steamy story about an affair would be kind of a bit disappointing to me.
Not on Coronation
Sending
Street.
really
Just
bad
saying,
messages,
just
especially
saying.
when they're so careful with some other things. To have this, it kind of reminds me of what happened with Ardy and Courtney last year, where they had like a statutory rape storyline that was supposed to be that summer's hottest romance.
Yeah. Anyway, over to Debbie, who we do all care about and love deeply, and are very sad that she's having this horrible thing that she's going through. She's at her an appointment, and we get to see the test that they do. I just found this so interesting.
This was fascinating. I went and looked up on YouTube to see if I could see any other like examples of people doing this test, and there aren't really any.
It was really well done. She's asked to draw a circle, isn't she, and then split it up into the 4 quarters, and then she's asked to put the seasons in order, and the woman's just kind of firing instructions at her that if you're
remember this, now do this.
If you've got good memory, you're gonna just about be able to keep up.
Well, I got really worried because I forgot what the address was by the end of the scene.
Yeah, 10 Orchard, something or other. But
I think I'm in trouble.
I think if Debbie is feeling worried about, oh my gosh, the results of these could mean I've got dementia, it would almost excuse you for being a bit forgetful about it, because you'd be on edge, wouldn't you? And she literally...
It's not supposed to be hard, though.
Maybe the editing of it purposefully made it look like this woman was firing questions at her at quite a pace. I didn't get
that. I felt it wasn't... It was more Debbie's... I felt like the editing was showing us Debbie's perspective of like... I'm kind of I'm wrong-footed by this. I'm not actually prepared. I'm not actually as good as this as I thought it would be.
Yeah, because Debbie, like Mike Baldwin before her, prides herself on being very much with it and sharp and head in the game, and this is just all crumbling around her. There's the other test that she has to do where she's drawing boxes and numbering them in order, and also trying to remember this address at the same time.
And she's also...
She knows she's not doing very well.
Just wittering on as well and going, I this and that, and making jokes and saying, maybe I'm not doing so well here, or something like that.
Yeah.
She's talking a lot to fill the space.
Because that's what she's like, isn't she? Yeah. She is a bit of a blabbermouth.
She's trying to cover the cracks.
Yeah. Anyway, the test's over, and the lady says, you scored highly in some parts, but not going to lie, some bits were a little bit confusing, so she's going to get... Concerning, sorry. She's going to book her in for an MRI scan, and Debbie's still wittering on, trying to make jokes to lighten the situation, and the woman says, look, don't worry, I know this is a bit daunting, it seems daunting, but I've seen people live full, happy lives for a good few years with dementia.
It's horrifying.
That is horrifying to think. The fact that she said a good few years makes me think, years? I've got longer than years left, haven't I? She doesn't even do the whole, it's a disease that you die with, not die from.
Well,
she's almost quite blunt about it.
It's difficult as well, because I don't know how much, I think it, I don't know anything about it, but I think some people's personalities are a bit more resilient to this than others. And I know for a fact I would go mad, and I would get really cross if I didn't know what was happening. And other people are probably a bit more, I'll just go with the flow kind of thing. Debbie
here is like, just tell me straight. Or was it here, or was it with the doctor last week?
When you actually are in the throes of it, because I've forgotten the name of the guy, and I've mentioned it before, but there's a very famous case of a guy who has like a 6-second memory or something. Like, he has no long-term memory storage whatsoever, and he's just lived for decades now with only... He can't even follow a conversation. He starts a sentence and he doesn't know what the end of the sentence is, and he constantly thinks he's waking up from not being alive. Like, he's like, I'm finally awake. I'm finally understanding what's happening, and I never did before. And this is the only moment there's ever been for me. There's never been anything else.
Yeah.
But he recognises his wife, and he loves her so much. And every time he sees her, he's just so happy to see her. His face lights up, and he can be kind of distracted a little bit, but he can get quite dark and upset when he goes through his diary, because he keeps writing, I'm awake for the first time, I've never been awake before, and then he scrubs it out and goes, I don't know who wrote that, it wasn't me, but now I'm awake for the first time, and it's just full and full and full. But I think he seems like this kind of guy who's got a personality that's a bit more resilient to becoming incredibly...
maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think there's something intrinsic about people's... But I also think that dementia is cruel to even the most kindest, because you hear people's personalities change completely, and people that were lovely and caring.
And Debbie must know about it. She's the
so
sort of...
You're terrified. You're trapped.
Yeah, Debbie must have been, and they've not mentioned it at all, but she must have been Googling this since she get the diagnosis. Debbie wants to be in control and know everything, and if she's not been looking this up, then I'd be surprised. It is horrible. It's horrible. Anyway, back to the actual awful, even more awful thing of Carl in the story. I don't
think it's more awful than dementia.
He follows Abby into the pub and says, "Look, don't worry, I'll get us out of this. Look, we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe it's my fault. I'm sorry. I've just got a weird sense of humour."
I hated that. And he was going, so often people say that. Well, maybe
maybe there's something wrong with you.
I've got a weird sense of humour. No, it's not humour. It's not a sense of humour. It's sexual harassment.
Yeah. Anyway, the family all gets summoned to the hotel later because Debbie's decided to take the bull by the horns. And
we don't know what as a viewer, you're like, oh, is she going to tell everybody?
Yeah, I didn't know that she was going to propose to Ronnie. Did you? Coming into the episode,
no.
She does. She proposes to Ronnie, and everyone applauds. And Abby's like, "Oh, how lovely!"
I loved it when she said, "I've got all my family here." So it's just something like, and I want you to be part of my family. I was like, that is so lovely. It was lovely.
It's like, my family's my rock. I'll get everyone here.
Usually, people, when they talk about marriage, they always talk about the woman joining the man's family. And I just thought it was quite progressive and feminist of Debbie to say that, you're joining my family. I'm not even Bailey.
I know, it's like, you don't want to be a Bailey, do you? Bailey's, Webster's. Oh, which is the curry clan that you'd like to be associated with? You're going to change your name,
no offence, but you guys are dropping like flies. Quit while you're ahead.
Anyway, this is during this party we find out that Carl is got his own money problems because that's how he...
Maybe you can steal some charity money.
Maybe he can. Yeah, he wants to be a real proper Coronation Street character. So what do they all have? Money issues. He's on the phone to someone. Money he's supposed to be giving this guy money, and he's not got enough to give. Oh, they're so dull.
Supposed to write
utterly dull.
So he
gets all right. He gets Debbie's bag out, and this is where he finds the appointment paperwork to the memory clinic. Basically, it was just inviting her to the appointment, saying to find out whether you've got dementia or not, and you can bring somebody along with you if you want to. So this is, I guess we see that Debbie doesn't want anybody to know about this yet, otherwise she would have invited someone along. But now he knows that there's something going on with Debbie, and there's a concern that she's got memory issues.
As he looks at her, she's kind of like laughing her head off and kind of just being the centre of attention, enjoying her family. And so he's a bit of a git, isn't he?
Well, he confronts her about it later. And she said, "Oh, when were you going to tell your amazing family that you might have dementia?" And she says, "Well, look, I've just had some tests. I'll know more about the scan." And he's like, "You can't keep Ronnie in the dark about it." And she's like, I will, and you're not allowed to say anything now, are you? And this kind of straight away just put me in the mind of, he is going to be screwing her out of some money,
He's going to blackmail her or something.
That's where his money tree is going to be shaken from, the Bank of Webster.
Well, it was an interesting reaction, because a lot of people would have imagined that if you find your sister's got this hospital note, you would have gone, "Oh my God, Debbie, are you okay? What's happened? Why haven't you told anybody? How are you feeling?" But he was like, "Oh, haven't told. You said your family was amazing, but you're not telling them." Like, immediately flipping it on her and kind of like being a bit aggressive and confrontational with it, which I guess it makes sense that because he's shocked, but he doesn't have the same emotional connection to her than he the rest of the family does.
No, I think he's just going to be setting himself up to be her confidant and like, "Okay, we won't tell the family if you don't want to, but you can tell me anything." And he is just going to be taking advantage of her and getting any money out of her that he can, because he's got these yet again financial worries that everybody in Curry seems to have at one point or the other. Anyway, Wednesday comes round, and she's invited the clan to lunch at the hotel again to help them choose a wedding lunch, because she's not sitting around with a flub off her bum. She wants to get this wedding happening.
Wants to get married.
Yeah. obviously it's because she wants to do it while she's still corpus mentis, but she's saying that it's, well, I'm just the sort of person that wants to get things done quickly. I'm going to make this the best wedding ever. She doesn't exactly say that, but she might as well have done. So Debbie sends Kevin and Abby upstairs to get glammed up, leaving her in the lounge with Carl. And he's like, well, what if you do have dementia? And she's like, I don't care. Look, I can play what after till the cows come home. I'm in control of the situation. And if I have to cross a bridge when the MRI results come in, so be it. If you want to help her, keep your gob shut. And so, yeah, that's what he decides. That's what he seems to be deciding to do. Tasting happens. Kevin, like you said, is feeling pretty peaky. He wants to go home. Before you know it, you got Abby and Carl left at the table together. He's still trying to charm her and smarm her. And then he gets this message on his phone about his money woes and tells her that his business in Germany is about to go bust. So that was kind of interesting that he's confessing to her about his problems. Yeah. So he says everything that's going on. She's like, well, you probably better go back to Germany, hadn't you? But he's like, no, I want to stay here and help my family. He doesn't. Does he have any kind of moral obligation to look after Kev, or is he just thinking about Debbie and her money now?
Steal Debbie's money.
I think it's just that. He's a horrible man.
Don't tell Kevin.
So they go. Kevin and Carl get talking back at number 13 later, and Kevin's feeling guilty about not being there for Carl when he was growing up, and Carl's like, no, don't worry about
Germany. It's boring.
He mentions his business problems and says, I might need to go back to Germany, but basically by the end of the episode, he's decided he doesn't need to go because money comes and goes, but family's for keeps. So
is that your amazing family?
Yes. Carl? So anyway, that's what's going on there. And surprised that we didn't get any of it on Friday, but I wasn't disappointed because it's a horrible storyline at the moment. I could deal with watching the Debbie bit of the story, but to have it, I hope I'm wrong, and that Carl doesn't get his hooks into her too much, because it's a sad enough story without him taking advantage of her. It's just horrible to think about. But that's not stopped Corrie before from doing things, has it?
If they only ever did things that everybody wanted them to do, it would be a bit of a boring
it's just frustrating.
show.
It's very infuriating. What's Dee-Dee been getting up to? Tenacious Dee-Dee.
Right, so Dee-Dee has been summoned to the hospital so they can say what the progress of the investigation is.
It's a very, very speedy investigation that's happening at quite a lick. If you go on the Corrie subreddit, somebody who I think they say they work in a hospital and maybe worked in the complaints department has put a post up with about 10 points that Corrie has got completely and utterly wrong with this story, and one of them is the speed at which it's happening, and another one is about how everyone's going around and talking to each other and interfering with the case, which would certainly be a cause for concern if it happened in real life. But it doesn't bother me too much, to be honest.
Well, it's one of those things where if you know the situation, you find it incredibly frustrating to watch it.
Yeah, I've not been watching.
Know how wrong it is. It doesn't.
I've not been watching any of it. Going, this wouldn't happen. But
well,
I appreciate the post anyway.
But when you've got a skin in the game, it's frustrating to see something be done so badly or incorrectly, and you're like, it would never happen like this. And when it's stuff, delicate things about the complaint stuff, and you feel like if you do work in the complaints department and you're watching Corrie kind of completely mishmash it, and you're like, well, you're making us all look like mugs now. Like, we work really hard and you're making it look like we don't, or things happen in a different way. And also, the other thing about it to consider is that people's expectations of the NHS are kind of created by shows like Coronation Street. So if somebody complains about a bad experience they've had and they don't get a meeting the next week, they're going to be like, well, what's happening? This is taking so much longer than I thought it should do. It just makes everything more difficult. But I do get what you're saying, because I feel similar to it, where I'm not sure how much I can really be invested in getting mad about it.
No, I'm not mad at all.
But it's like when they do stuff with teaching, I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know.
So I totally get both sides of the argument.
How have you been enjoying Dee-Dee's story this week?
I found it very interesting. It was very interesting here.
I enjoyed it more as the week went on.
So, Dee-Dee, what?
It definitely is still feeling a little bit too much like an information pamphlet at times.
Well, Audrey and Maria got the statistics.
They got schooled, didn't they? Yeah,
Audrey,
when Audrey was like, I had a really tough time when I gave birth to our Gail. And Maria's like, I've had a stillbirth.
Respectfully, you didn't, because...
1 in 4 black people.
Yeah.
When she started...
black women.
Yeah, black women. When she started quoting the statistics, that was when it was like, you don't need to be quite so on the nose about it.
I don't know. It felt clumsy, but it also felt like, how else do you say it?
I know. And that's the problem. But sometimes they can get it well. This was more in the vein of the Lyme disease spiel from Dr. Gaddis last year. And I wish it hadn't, because it is a really important and serious issue.
And I think a lot of people would be shocked by hearing.
Yeah. I didn't know this as a thing.
But equally, maybe save it a bit. Maybe wait a tiny bit after someone just told you their baby, they had a stillborn baby.
I know, it's like she tried to trump her.
It kind of did feel like that. I know it wasn't supposed to, but if I was Maria, I'd be like, fine.
I had my uterus out, actually.
It was just.
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad for Maria, because it was like, but Maria, had a chance to say something if she wanted to, but she was like, oh my god, I had no idea. So she obviously wasn't feeling the same way about it.
What I have liked about this story is that it's given this midwife Zoe a bit of a voice, hasn't it? Because it was perfectly possible that she was just going to be painted as the villain, the uncaring, heartless midwife throughout the whole of this, and she doesn't get a chance to say anything, and clearly she was neglectful. But the scene that they had on, it was Friday's episode, wasn't it, with Asher, and a bit, I suppose, on Wednesday, did go to show that she is stressed and overworked, and it obviously doesn't excuse anything, but it kind of goes some way to explain why she maybe didn't give Dee-Dee the full care that she needed. And actually, I really enjoyed the juicy reveal at the end of the Friday episode that she's Wes's sister, because I really like Wes. I think he's a cracking character, and I was thinking, maybe there's going to be a bit of romance between Wes and Dee-Dee. Like, no, he's the brother. So that was, I suppose, the more soapy elements I was more drawn to, I suppose. But do you want to just...
I always thought Wes was a weird creep. I was like, why are you here again?
Did you?
I didn't like him. I thought he was a bit weird.
I really liked Wes.
And getting a bit personal.
Yeah. I saw the actor that played him. I looked on his Instagram, and he's got various kind of reels and just basically camping it up in a variety of roles there. And then he posted saying, I'm going to be on Coronation Street for a couple of episodes. So I don't think we got a long-term character in Wes here. I think he just seemed like a genuinely nice, inoffensive guy. And I don't think anything's happened.
It wasn't that he was acting weird. It was just like, why are you here again?
He's getting a prescription for his mum.
Why do you keep turning up?
I wondered whether they could have laid the foundations for the reveal a little bit on Friday by having, when Zoe was talking to Asher, could she have dropped it into the conversation about, and with all this, my mum's sick at the moment as well. And that would have just made the reveal you did kind of tease that. But maybe they did and I missed it. I don't know.
I just really like how this is very complicated, and it doesn't feel... I'm trying to think of how they did the story with James, with the car and the policeman, because this was it was kind of a similar...
Yeah, it is. It's the casual racism, isn't it?
Well, it's not casual racism. It's
no. Sorry, it's not
unconscious
right.
bias.
Unconscious bias, isn't it? Yeah,
casual racism.
No, casual racism. That was
different.
That was the play the white man story.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the racist firemen. They're all like it, aren't they? Racist firemen, racist midwives.
Yeah.
What's next? Racist teachers.
Maybe.
Right.
Anyway.
So Dee-Dee's at the hospital with this investigation. The guy's there, and he's like saying, we've kind of narrowed it down. And we think it's this one person called Zoe.
It wasn't just her, was it?
I know, it wasn't just her.
We said we need to rewatch the episodes and see what she did.
He said something like, I think it's quite, we got to focus on one particular thing. So we're going to use this scapegoat here.
That's what she is. And later on, fair play to her, Dee-Dee does say, this is systemic. It's not Zoe. And Zoe shouldn't be bearing the brunt of this.
Well, okay, so... she says, Dee-Dee says, I just want to make sure that nobody goes through what I had to go through. So when she leaves, Dee-Dee sees Zoe on the bench with Asher, and Asher's kind of comforting her, and Dee-Dee does not like this at all. So Asher goes to see her later, and she's like, I don't want to talk to you. Look, I'm not here to talk about your complaint, but I just want to talk to you about Zoe, and because she's going through a really tough time. And Dee-Dee's like, look, Asher, you're a woman of colour too. Do you not understand what's going on here? Zoe talked down to me. She made assumptions about me, and I'm not having it. And Asher says, look, she's just going through a lot of pressure. And Dee-Dee says, no, I trusted them. My life was in their hands. I begged her for help and she didn't listen. Maybe now she's going to think twice when a black woman asks her for help. And she also says, to be silent is to be complicit.
I feel that we should kind of be seeing more of Zoe's story and the fact that she's overworked. And
I don't think it's important. I think it's as difficult. She does say, you know, there are facts about how much work she's expected to do factually, but how many, the statistics speak for themselves.
Oh,
it's
I know,
1 in 4 black women are, what was it actually? They are more likely to die giving birth. Black women are 4. It's not 1 in 4. It's black women are 4 times more likely to die giving birth. So if it was just down to everyone's very busy, there wouldn't be a statistic like that, would there? And it's not. And again, I said this about COVID as well. We don't really understand whether it's because of racist attitudes or unconscious bias, or whether there's something biological that's happening that we can't explain. It could be a biological reason. We just don't know because nobody's bothered to study it. And we can't, and the fact that we cannot rule out that racism is literally killing women, black women, is disgusting, you know? We should be able to say, oh no, it definitely isn't that. But we can't. We don't know. It could be anything. It could be that, or it could be something else. That, you know, there are biological differences. And the point that was made about Zoe was saying about her skin colour, she couldn't tell that Dee-Dee was going pale because it didn't register because her skin is dark. That doesn't mean that you can't tell that she's losing blood, because I bet you that a nurse of colour would have noticed a slight difference in her skin tone. Yeah. We've got a friend who works with skin, and this is what this person was telling us, that they've only recently realised that a lot of the way that they spot skin diseases and different conditions is all based on what it looks like on white skin. Nobody's bothered to do it. And I'm going to also say that the female body in general is not properly studied, and we don't understand it. So imagine the compounding issues of both of those things, and then having a woman put her life in the hands of a medical profession that genuinely, on the whole, doesn't care. The individuals do, the people that work there do, but on the whole, I'm afraid that medical science doesn't really care about women. It's
a big issue for Dee-Dee to try and sort out herself. I mean, she said, I just want to make sure that nobody goes through this again. She can't seriously believe that one person can make a difference, but I think she just wants to make sure that she's
she thinks if I
not
stop
stayed
her,
silent.
She at the beginning of the week, she's like, if I stop her, then it will be all right. But then she realises at the end of the week, it's not just her, it's everyone. You know, they invented the chainsaw to help for women when they were giving birth, to cut the bones of your pelvis. That's what the medical profession thinks of women. They invented the chainsaw. I'm not sure what a satisfying conclusion for this is going to be. This feels a bit like with James and the being gay and a footballer story, where it's a social issue that's so huge, it doesn't feel as though a single character can affect any change, because in the world of the show, nothing can happen because nothing would happen in real life. Like, it's not like tomorrow the NHS is going to do a massive campaign and then Dee-Dee can say, look, I did that. You know, maybe Weatherfield General says it's going to update its training, or, you know, or the Manchester University, the midwifery are going to have something changed to how they train women about it. We had the listener write in the other week saying that they are told that, but maybe for easiness in the story, they don't say that when they train them in Weatherfield, and now they will. The other thing about it too is that it must be very difficult as a midwife or a nurse or anyone in the medical profession to discern how much is somebody upset and in pain, and not understanding that there is a certain level of pain that is going to be intrinsic to this process. Yeah. And what is actually, this is bad and I need help. Yeah, because if somebody's not in pain,
and that, you know...
No. When you're in hospital, you're going to be in a certain level of pain, and some people are just not accustomed to any sort of discomfort whatsoever. How do you discern between that and somebody going, I think I'm dying? It must be very difficult, but I just can't see why it's not a given that you err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
But then that's what Zoe was saying about her...
Overworked.
Yeah.
I've got lots of other people, and she took a risk, and it's obviously blown up in her face.
I would like to know whether the statistics are getting worse for outcomes for women of colour, because if that's so, then it would show that it's because they don't have the time for the correct level of care.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can do. I wish that there was more money for the NHS. I'm very curious
to see what they do.
You can tell that the funding is going, and that there's not enough money to go around for any kind of public service, even for teaching. The amount of money, like 70% of all schools are underfunded. And I bet again that is a situation that's worse in areas who need it the most.
Yeah, I bet.
Right.
Anyway,
so Dee-Dee bumps into Wes, who, what is he? Is he a midwife?
I'm not sure what he is.
He's just a friendly guy who works at a hospital.
Chap at the hospital.
And she says, look, this is going on with this complaint. It was Zoe what done it. And he says, oh, these cases are very draining. They can go on for years. And I'm sure that Zoe will be monitored and you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, he's trying to
concentrate
put her
on your baby and then decide whether you want to fight or not. And here's my number in case you ever need it.
This is where I thought there might be some kind of romantic spark between them.
Are you joking?
No, I thought there could be. I think he's lovely.
I did think when he was saying, oh, it takes ages, don't worry about it, maybe just decide later. I was thinking he just doesn't want to get in trouble. I didn't know I'd had no idea that there was any link between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because if they start poking around, they could find out all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't know what Wes is up to in the cupboards.
Where does Wes have a Waz?
Don't know. On Friday.
Good Friday. Dee-Dee's gone to church, hasn't she?
Alias catches Dee-Dee on the way back from church, and they both say, I love you to each other. And then Dee-Dee says the hospital have decided they've concluded their investigation and they found no wrongdoing.
Quick.
And then she says to Alia, can you do me a favour? And I think that they go, we don't really get told. I wasn't
really sure what the group was that they went to.
But it's a support group for new mums, it looks like. And Dee-Dee's gone, and she obviously doesn't have a baby with her, so everybody's thinking that it's died, and she has to tell them that it's just not there. And she speaks to an Asian lady who says that she had a traumatic experience, and this was a bit clunky. She's like, it felt like they weren't paying attention to my pain. It wasn't her performance. It was the script was just like copy and paste.
It just felt a little bit too clunky.
It was just very much like exposition, like, do you want to hear about how I've had a traumatic experience because of the colour of my skin? Here you go. This is just all the information that you need to know in a very handy...
It was. The first person that Dee-Dee sits next to just so
happens to have had a traumatic experience.
The same problem that she's campaigning against.
Yeah.
At the moment. Like, oh.
It was. It felt like it needed a bit more subtlety and time.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to say that there are many people who are totally resistant to even the concept of this as being true, and they don't want to hear it. And so if you give them any excuse to ignore it, they will. If they get a sniff and they'll start saying, oh, it's woke, oh, it's just woke nonsense, it's not true, oh, it's over-exaggerated, they'll take any chance to just make themselves feel comfortable and decide that this is just a bunch of nonsense.
And I think that people who are resistant to the idea that this is true could look at some of this week's scripts and go, oh, yeah, how convenient that is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And I think they've done some great stuff in the past. And I think this is a really important story, and I think everyone's doing, all the actors are doing a great job. I think Dee-Dee was a great character to pick this for, but I just don't think, again, they've fallen down the trap of, what's it called?
Yeah.
Here's an announcement.
Yeah, it is a bit.
You might as well have gone, bing, bing, bong.
Racism is bad.
The next train at the station is racism. Yeah. Don't get on that one. Right, so anyway, she comes back, Alia comes back from this experience, and Alia's saying to her, I reckon that you're right. she says, I feel vindicated for you, which I think is such a great way of Alia making it about herself. I feel vindicated for you because everyone was saying the same thing that you've been saying about these traumatic experiences. And then you get this scene with Audrey and Maria. And it did feel I felt a bit bad for Audrey and Maria because they thought they were just sharing their experiences in a kind of women's solidarity thing, but Dee-Dee was like, goes, what is deeper than that, actually?
I appreciated that we got a bit of Gail lore in this scene.
She got trapped.
Is this new information? Do Coropedia need to add something to the very top of their page now about the moment of Gail's birth? Yeah.
Yeah, so Maria...
Not here anymore, we can say what we want about her.
Say what you want. Maria, they say, like, who'd be a woman? And then Dee-Dee's like, well, who would be a black woman, actually? Because... this is all preventable, and yes, because Maria and Audrey are both like going, it's it's just what it's like to be a woman, who can, at least we lived through it, but Dee-Dee doesn't want to just have that attitude of like ho hum. Yeah. It could happen to any of us, because she's like, it couldn't happen to any of us though, because it happens to women like me more than it happens to women like you.
Yeah, and
it was a very uncomfortable conversation, and I do wonder what Audrey said to Maria after it, because I bet she didn't really like that story either.
No,
because there's a lot of people that just, when you're telling your story about something terrible has happened and somebody points out that actually it happens more to other people who are disadvantaged, it's not always a welcome conversation, is it?
No.
And she's completely right. Dee-Dee's completely right. And how else are they going to hear this? Who would ever tell them? How would they find out? There's never going to be a point at which it's going to be a comfortable thing to hear.
I'd be interested to see if Maria gets on this train, because she likes a good campaign herself, doesn't she?
She's like, I've done recycling.
The environment's sorted now.
We saved the red wreck.
Yeah.
Maybe she could help. I mean, is she still a counsellor, or she gave that up?
I think so.
It'd be nice if Maria, that would be a way that could kind of make sense for this to go.
Yeah, and Maria's not really had a whole lot to do recently, has she? Her and Gary. So maybe getting her involved in the story, I wouldn't be adverse to.
This is so difficult for Dee-Dee, because like I said, a lot of people don't even hear this to begin with, and knowing that people are dying because of what's happening. And she's such a principled person anyway, isn't she? She would never want to sit back and let something unjust happen. No. So she goes to speak to Asher, Dee-Dee does, and says, I want to talk to Zoe. I want to see exactly what happened during my delivery. So this I bet the person who was on the Corrie subreddit was breathing fire at this bit, because there's no way that this would have happened, surely. So Asher brings Zoe to speed dial, and fair play to her. I don't think if I was Zoe, I would have gone to this little meeting to be berated. No. But she says she's defending herself. Zoe's not really listening to what Dee-Dee is saying. And she says, look, sorry about what happened to you, but I did everything I could. Sometimes things just go wrong. We've got no staff. She says like they're supposed to be 13 and there were 9 and 3 of them were off sick or something. And she said, and Dee-Dee says, I understand, but it shouldn't have happened. It could have been avoided. You didn't listen to what I said. And so he says, I did listen to you. And Dee-Dee, you got the same treatment as everybody else. I didn't treat you differently because of what you look like. She does not like the
insinuation that she's a racist, does she?
No one's going to go, oh yeah, I guess you're right, are they? No. Because it's unconscious bias. You don't even realise you're doing it. So Dee-Dee's like, I spoke to a bunch of other women who look like me, and they told me exactly the same, that they went through this trauma. And so he's like, oh, excuse me, I don't like this implication that you're saying I'm a racist. And then she says the reveal, which is that because she was checking her for preeclampsia, you didn't go have the usual signs. And Dee-Dee's like, which is? And Zoe says, your skin didn't go pale. And Dee-Dee's like, yeah, that's right. My skin didn't go pale.
It felt like you would have thought that there would have been procedures. I don't know.
I know, exactly. It feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, I'm going to point out one of my, my favourite facts is that up until like 2 or 3 years ago, they didn't even use female crash test dummies for cars. Women die more in car crashes because they didn't ever bother using a female crash test dummy. That feels obvious, doesn't it? But they've only just decided to start doing it. They've only just started making them. I don't even know if they get used.
Yeah.
If that can happen, Imagine what happens to women who are like systematically excluded and discriminated against already. I can only relate it to like myself as being a woman, but I acknowledge that it's much worse for people like Dee-Dee.
Yeah, no, it must be.
I have to relate it back to my experiences because that's my limit of what I know to be true. But when a woman comes to me and tells me, like Dee-Dee was saying, I believe her because I know how bad it gets. I know it can get worse. Yeah. It can get worse for people who people don't care, society doesn't care about. And I'm not saying that anybody does it on purpose. I just think it's just been so dominated by men and white people.
That's why I would like to see... I
just don't know what to say.
That's why I'd like to see an outcome for Zoe being that she just, learns a lesson, or that she, goes on Dee-Dee's side and she campaigns for more rights for black people, or does she, lead some training at her own hospital? I don't need to see Zoe being punished for this. I'd like her to just... understand.
Well, Dee-Dee's been quite insistent all the way through that she doesn't want punishment. She wants that. Number one, she wants to understand, and number two, she doesn't want it to happen to anybody else.
Yeah. This conversation comes up when she meets Wes in the street again, doesn't it? And she's saying that I've been looking for someone to blame, but this isn't about Zoe. And now we know about the relationship between Wes and Zoe. He says, "Oh yeah, it is. It's systemic, isn't it?" He's still inviting her for coffees and chats.
This is what I said to you when he said that. I was like, oh yeah, Wes, it's a systemic issue, is it? So what are you actually doing about it? I said, isn't he so eager to agree that this is a systemic issue? But he's part of the system, so what's he doing?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens to him in the end.
Dee-Dee, Maria and Ali will go for a nice drink in the bistro to wind down. And then Wes comes in and he's with Zoe. And they're like, oh, what is this? And Wes is like, no, it's not like that. We're brother and sister. And Dee Dee's like, oh, I see. Now it all comes out. You're trying to be my friend because you wanted me to drop my complaint against you.
Oh, I'd really like to think that Wes is just a nice guy as well. That can use his nice guyness to try and get his sister
Use your
off.
nice guyness to stop black women from being harmed in hospital.
Maybe he will.
I just don't know. There's no easy solution because, like I said, a lot of this is down to perspective and, like, how do you know if there's something genuinely wrong with somebody, or if they're just upset because they're in absolute agony and they're scared? Because even when it's a normal, like Dee-Dee's was just a normal average pregnancy. There was no like, oh, you've got to be careful because of this, or you've got signs of that, or you've got high blood pressure. Nobody said anything, but it all went. It
was in the final
it came
few
out of
weeks,
nowhere. And so, how do you tell the difference between that and somebody who's just like upset because they know that anything could go wrong and they could die? And I think I've said this for ages. People, we take women who are pregnant and giving birth for granted so much because we need them to carry on the human race, but then they get treated like dirt and like they're whining about it. It's just horrible. It's just horrible how women get treated.
Let's move on to some slightly less dramatic and a bit more juicy drama in what's going on in the Rovers, which wasn't much. I think it was just Monday we saw
more
some
women being mistreated by society.
But Jenny is still keeping Daisy in the dark about everything that's going on. Although
I think
Daisy
these women
knows.
Are causing their own troubles.
They are.
We don't need you men, okay, to cause us harm. We can do it to ourselves, thank you. Girl power.
Daisy is trying to give Jenny chance after chance to fess up about what's going on, but Jenny is not taking it. She's telling Daisy about, oh yeah, Carla wants to sell the pub. She's got me over about, oh, what can I do? And but yeah, Jenny's doesn't take the opportunity to say everything that's going on. Basically, Christina kind of jumps into the awkward situation, and they open a bottle of fizz and they toast to family. And Jenny is again looking quite awkward here because she knows that she's throwing Daisy under a bus. So Carla comes into the pub later, and Daisy is pretty sozzled by this point. This was a fun scene. Some of the Swala fans were making quite a fuss up on Twitter, weren't they? With Daisy putting her hands around Carla's face.
Can you say homoerotic for women?
I think you can, yeah.
Because it was.
I know it's usually
it was very.
more reserved
I think
for
it's
men.
just erotic.
Yeah, it was.
It was very...
I'm surprised Sarah didn't come in and say, "Oh, Daisy and Carla, do you want to
come to
my flat?"
Yeah.
Maybe. We don't. It's not just for men. Anyway, Carla's telling Jenny, "Look, you need to tell Daisy the truth about everything that's going on here." Christina is listening in. She returns to the pub later, does Christina. Jenny's worried that she's been telling Daisy about whatever it was that she overheard with Carla, and Christina was playing dumb, saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you're talking to Carla about. I've not even been to see Daisy at all. I'm just doing some shopping, actually. But she kind of makes sure that Jenny knows that she's onto her. She's definitely got the upper hand here, has Christina, and as much as I love Jenny, it's still a lot of fun to me to see her toying with young Miss Bradley. So Jenny goes to the back room later and is confronted by Daisy, who basically tells her, "I know what you're doing, Jenny. You're trying to get the pub, aren't you?" Jenny says, "Look, I can't lose it. I've got a loan. Fess up." Daisy knows obviously about the money, but under Christina's instruction, she's not telling Jenny that she knows about the money. So Jenny just ends up digging herself more of a hole by saying that she's got a loan. And Daisy and Christina are really biting their tongue here.
She does she have a loan, or does she's using that as collateral for a loan?
No, she's
getting a loan, but the reason why she's able to get one is because she's got £60,000.
Yes. It's
I
really
guess
confusing. This is complicated.
The trouble with this story is a bit like what happened with Sarah and them all going to stay at Grasmere Drive. It kind of relies on you filling in some blanks that haven't actually been filled in.
Maybe.
Has she gone and got a loan? I don't really know.
I'm not sure.
She said she was going to, or Carla told her to.
Look, anyway, all we need to know is that Christina and Daisy are proper onto her. Christina's saying, "Look, Daisy, I know this absolutely sucks for you. We just need to be patient. It's not going to be long before we've got Jenny's money off of her."
Yeah.
So, and I still feel that Daisy isn't as up for this.
No, she's being pulled
skullduggery as Christina is.
Christina's just been waiting her whole life.
She literally has, because this is the woman who took her husband off of her
and her family.
Yeah, all these years ago. So this is
revenge.
I kind of almost want Christina to win here. It's really bad to say.
Only if Jenny keeps the pub.
But yeah, it's that's my proviso in all of this, that Jenny keeps the pub, because
those are our demands.
I'm not happy if anyone else gets it. I'll tell you that.
Right,
so maybe Sarah Lou can, and then she can literally turn the rovers
into a knocking shop. Annie Walker's revolving in her grave.
She is.
Right, so final story is Doran.
This is no story,
he's come back.
And he's staying.
Cassie takes Doran to the park, and Fizz wants to know why Tyrone has decided to be nice to his mum. And he says,
everything that's happened.
We had a scene last week that made me feel bad about myself. We're making peace. Alina texts. She wants to talk. Tyrone's worried. Is she going to take Doran back? He has the phone call. Alina says, look after him for a bit longer.
Handy.
But now Tyrone's worried that Doran's sad and misses his mum. But then he's fine.
Yeah, he's having a lovely time.
He's totally over it. So he's obviously not loyal. He's like a cat.
Yeah, that was a few possibly necessary scenes to explain why Doran's here for longer than just a couple of days. He's here for the foreseeable, which is lovely. I'm not complaining about this whatsoever, but are we going to have a story? Can we have a story here, maybe? Is Doran going to find Cassie and Steve at it? It's not a secret anymore, is it?
No one cares anymore.
I've got no idea what this is leading to.
Why have they brought Doran back?
I don't know. I really want Alina to come back as well.
Is Alina going to die? Is she going to join the Weatherfield Dead Mothers Society?
She might do. Who knows? Right, what are we scoring this week? And Gemma.
Okay.
I didn't love it.
There were some really important things. The medical stuff is just becoming overwhelming, and if it's not a wedding, if it's not a hospital scene, it's a scene in a prison. I mean, let's look at the stories we had. It's either you take your pick. You've got a horrible disease. You're suffering in some medical way. You're being blackmailed because you're in prison, or you're having an affair. this week, or your
Affairs
nice.
are soap's bread and butter, though. They're not usually bad on their own. I'd take an affair over the other types of story any day.
I think,
but I didn't like the fact that we're supposed to be sympathising with Theo here. I find that quite difficult.
I like the fact that there are no. It doesn't feel like there's any easy answers, and there's no clear moral kind of. I like how complicated they're making some of these stories and very challenging. Like the story with Dee-Dee, it would have been so easy to have made Zoe into some ghoulish closet racist, and maybe they will go down that path. I don't know, but it's not just about her, is it? It's about everybody, and having Dee-Dee confront her and having her just be like, no.
Yeah, I think the added layers of complexity that story had added to it on Friday certainly made me pay attention to it a lot more. Same with the Dylan and Brody storyline. I wasn't feeling that whatsoever until Friday when the Michaelis get dragged into it, Sean gets beaten up. Suddenly I was enjoying it an awful lot more. But sadly, there was Monday and Wednesday's episode just didn't particularly do it for me.
And I like the way that with the Theo story, I'm really confused about how to feel about Theo, because being trapped in a life that you don't want with not being able to be who you are is terrifying and not something that I've ever had to experience or even think about. And so it's making me consider, like, genuinely, how would I cope? Am I, always, I think the majority of the stuff that we talk about, I come to it from a place of relative privilege. I don't have to worry about what Dee-Dee was worrying about. I don't have to worry about what Theo and Todd were worrying about. So when I make judgments on people and how they act, I do feel really bad about it. Yeah. But equally, he's a cheating dog. Just because you do the laundry doesn't
doesn't mean you haven't done the dirty beforehand.
Exactly.
I'm going to give this week 3 farting brickies sharing a DOS house with Mick out of 5. It would have been lower if Friday's
How many?
3. Would have been lower if Friday hadn't redeemed itself a little bit more for me. I spent a lot of Monday and Wednesday's episode just going whatever, and the stories were rushing past me, rushing over me.
I can't give it more than 3 either, because
what are you going to
there's
score
just some
3?
clumsy bits.
3 what?
3 freshly laundered sheets by Todd.
That's how many.
Hopefully
he did this week. Yeah.
I hope that. I know we keep focusing. I'm so sorry that we keep focusing on the laundry aspect of this, because it does feel a bit like it's unnecessarily obsessed with it now. But I hope that she's got a tumble dryer there, because I tell you what, when we used to live in our old house and we didn't have a tumble dryer, drying the sheets was an absolute nightmare. Sarah's going to walk home, and instead of worrying about who's in the bedroom doing what, she's going to see like sheets just like hanging from the rafters and draped over the tables. That's what we had to do. Drape them over sofas and sticking them all over the radiators.
Yeah, we did. My character of the week this week. A tough one. I really enjoy watching Todd. I think he's very entertaining.
What about Sean?
No, because he's getting taken advantage of in a situation that he could have got out of himself. I'm not saying that he deserved or it's his own fault he got beaten up or anything like that. But
you feel like he could have been more cunning.
He could have stood up for himself and his son a little bit more. I enjoyed watching Todd. I think he's fun. I thought the date scene with Sarah Lou was great on Friday. I think I'm probably going to go with him. Yeah, he's one of the ones that I've enjoyed watching the most. What about you?
Todd?
Yeah.
This is difficult.
Dee-Dee?
I think Dee-Dee or Debbie. I think Debbie, because I thought that scene with her doing the test was really well done. Because it must have been really difficult. Like, Sue Devaney did such a great job of having Debbie, giving it her best, but just like, when she's like drawing it and hesitating and being like, no, that's not right.
It was very well performed.
I thought, and I also, when she was celebrating with everybody and when she proposed to Ronnie, I just loved that. That was beautiful. I just think, I wish that they could be happy forever.
She said like you know, I'm not going to cheap out or anything, but she's still getting married at her own hotel, isn't she?
Okay.
If anyone deserves to be married in a country mansion somewhere, then it's Debbie Webster.
But I did really love the Debbiness of getting everybody to do the tasting menu, but it turned out it didn't matter anyway because she's gonna have it all
of it anyway. Okay, right. There we go. That's our summary of this week's Coronation Street.
I think three is fine.
Yeah,
three is fine.
It wasn't any more than that. 3 it is.
3 is fine.